Chapter 448, The Far West. The Far West. For some unknown reason, thousands of ferocious beasts have gathered in the cage nest in the past few days. These ferocious beasts in the Far West are notoriously brutal, not to mention being piled together. Even if they are placed together alone, these beasts will fight to the death. But the strange thing is that today is extremely abnormal. These ferocious beasts that can cause a bloody storm in the outside world are not only not fighting, but are extremely quiet, as if they are waiting for something. In front of these ferocious beasts, there were 3 ancient relics with terrifying cultivation. They were huge in size, and their pressure was extremely astonishing. They are a golden divine bull, a black demon spider suspended in midair, and a giant viper wrapped around the demon peak. They were actually 3 ancient relics of the saint level. This level of ferocious beasts was more difficult to deal with and more troublesome than ordinary saint beasts. Is the high priest right? The little demon king and little demon queen appeared today. The 10,000 poison adder spoke in human language. Wandu, do you doubt the high priest? Tianyuan looked at him with some dissatisfaction. In terms of strength, the most powerful one here is the Golden Sky Barbarian Bull. Yes, you dare to question the words of the high priest? I'm afraid you don't want to live. The demon spider also spoke, a mature female voice. How dare I question it? Please don't accuse me. I'm just curious about when our king will appear. The 10,000 poison adder smiled awkwardly and explained quickly. It should be soon. Seeing this, Tianyuan's tone became slightly better, and he glanced at him. Upon hearing this, the 10,000 poison viper nodded slightly and looked at the 2 statues on the altar with a burning look in his eyes. These 2 statues, one male and one female, are both in human form, but they have dragon horns and tails, and their eyes are extremely domineering. In ancient times, the Earth Dragon's nest was the legendary cave where the descendants of the dragon clan lived. The 2 people in this statue are none other than the monsters left behind by the real dragon clan in their cage nest. In that era, these 2 people suppressed all the geniuses of time and made all human beings breathless. He can be said to be the leader of the demon clan, shining the glory of an era for the demon clan. Now, according to the priest's speculation, their king will be resurrected again and appear in the Earth Dragon's nest today. The Golden Age is coming. If the other party leads us, there is no need to worry about the prosperity of the demon clan. Thinking of this, the eyes of 10,000 poison viper and others were extremely hot, accompanied by 2 long and terrifying dragon roars. All the ferocious beasts present were instinctively frightened, their bodies shaking like sieves, and they were even scared to the point of roaring instinctively. Even the stronger ancient species, after sensing that breath, could not help but prostrate themselves on the ground and kneel, without a trace of resistance in their eyes. They knew that their king, the Real King, would be born in this dragon's nest that had been dormant for who knows how many years. Soon, the dragon's roar disappeared. The ancient species that gave birth to intelligence in the wild could not help but look up, and those ferocious beasts that had not yet started could not help but feel their legs go weak, their entire bodies crawling on the ground, and they all bowed down to it. All beasts are paying homage, manifested at this moment. If a cultivator came here and saw this scene, he would definitely be shocked. I saw 2 golden figures standing on the demon peak. Chapter 449, Little Demon King. The ancient species that gave birth to intelligence in the wild could not help but look up, and those ferocious beasts that had not yet started could not help but feel their legs go weak, their entire bodies crawling on the ground, and they all bowed down to it. All beasts are paying homage, manifested at this moment. If a cultivator came here and saw this scene, he would definitely be shocked. Not long after, 2 golden figures were seen standing on the demon peak. For a moment, the whole world was silent. All the ferocious beasts present opened their eyes wide, staring at the 2 figures, their breathing gradually becoming hot. The golden aura that belonged only to the king poured out, covering the entire blue sky, as if a golden sky curtain had descended. The terrifying pressure quickly spread throughout the cage nest. All living creatures could not help but prostrate themselves on the ground, their bodies trembling, not daring to look up and face that breath. Even the high and mighty ancient species knelt on the ground at this moment, lowering their heads that had been proud for millions of years. Wang Wei cannot be looked directly at. This is the real suppression between bloodlines. After a few breaths, a cold voice sounded, its tone full of unquestionable authority. What year is it tonight? How many years have passed since I fell asleep? On the demon peak, the little demon king looked at them with his dragon eyes flashing. He had a tall and straight figure, wearing a golden battle armor, with a look of arrogance in his facial features, and 2 golden dragon horns on his head, shining brightly. Just standing there, He exudes a majestic and astonishing aura, giving people a great sense of oppression, like a natural king. This is the descendant of the legendary Earth Dragon, the undisputed king of the Far West, the Little Demon King. Wang Wuming was named the king when he was born. Beside him stood a young woman wearing the same golden armor, towering above him, her beautiful eyes gleaming with an enchanting light, her facial features delicate, and she had crystal silver dragon horns. Although the aura is not as strong as the former, it also brings a danger that cannot be ignored. She also cast her eyes downwards, looking around and sizing them up. This woman is the Demon Queen who was famous in Tianyuan realm together with the Little Demon King in ancient times. She is also the Taoist partner of the Little Demon King. Its bloodline is that of a descendant of the Azure Dragon, slightly inferior to that of the Earth Dragon, but in the Tianyuan realm, it is also extremely terrifying and is undoubtedly a pure-blooded creature. Tonight marks the 23,000th year of the demonic calendar. King, you have slept for 10,000 years. Not long after, the Golden Sky Barbarian Bull knelt on the ground respectfully and spoke. Beside it, the adder felt a little regretful that it failed to speak first and was taken advantage of by the bull. You know, this is the best time to make an impression. The Little Demon King remained silent, as if lost in thought. 10,000 years. Isn't this the golden age predicted by my father? Seeing that he remained silent, the monsters present did not dare to speak and could only watch cautiously. In the past, has my demon race ever dominated the entire Tianyuan realm? After hearing this, the Little Demon Queen spoke and looked at them, her beautiful eyes filled with anticipation. You know, in their era, the Demon Clan had already captured many cities in the 3 states, and even some top forces were destroyed by their nests. Logically speaking, after such a long time, the demon race should have occupied the entire Tianyuan territory, except for some extremely dangerous areas, such as the extreme south. After these words were spoken, all the ferocious beasts present looked at each other, and without exception, they felt a sense of shame and embarrassment. Chapter 450. Kill the human race's #1 prodigy. Dominate? Not to mention dominating the entire Tianyuan domain, even their living space has now been squeezed by the human race to only this tiny piece of land. In an instant, the atmosphere fell into silence. The Little Demon Queen noticed something was amiss and narrowed her eyes slightly, a hint of danger between her brows. After the Little Demon King finished thinking, he also looked over with a domineering look in his eyes. Under the gaze of the 2 pure-blooded creatures, the ferocious beasts present trembled and dared not make a sound. The 3 ancient species in the front also gritted their teeth and let the cold sweat flow. If the other party knew that the demon race has now been reduced to surviving only in this area of the Far West, I wonder how angry they would be. Soon, a few breaths passed, and still no one dared to speak. The Little Demon Queen frowned, and the air suddenly turned cold. Speak up. Why are you all like mutes? Don't you have a mouth? Or do you want me to cut out your tongues myself? As the words fell, the Little Demon King also showed an unfriendly look, and overwhelming pressure suddenly descended. Under such pressure, some creatures couldn't help but feel their legs go weak. With a bang, they fell to their knees on the ground, kowtowed quickly, and looked panicked. My king, it's not that we don't want to dominate Tianyuan territory, but the human race is too overbearing. After you left, the human race's offensive increased dramatically, and no one in our demon race was able to cope with it. Yes, the human race killed us all, so we had no choice but to be exiled to this desolate land. Not only do they feed on us, they also threaten to drink our blood and eat our flesh if we get out. The skin, hair, tendons, and bones on our bodies are regarded as treasures by those humans. Countless of them want to kill us. Voices with a hint of crying were heard one after another, and the ferocious beasts poured out all the grievances they had suffered over the years. Upon hearing this, the 2 people on the demon peak looked at each other, and a terrible anger was suppressed in their hearts. After they fell asleep, the demon race was actually oppressed by those despicable creatures. Now it has been reduced to the point where only the Far West can survive. You have to know that back then, in their eyes, the human race of Tianyuan territory was no different from blood food. They even showed mercy and allowed them to leave their fire to spread. And now, they've turned the tables and become the masters, even using the demon race as blood food. It's simply the opposite of Tianyuan. This sudden change made the 2 of them extremely unhappy. At this moment, undisguised murderous intent burst out from the eyes of the 2 men, making the entire world suddenly become much colder, as if winter was approaching. All right, shut up. The Little Demon King couldn't stand the wailing sounds in the sky anymore, so he frowned and shouted coldly. After he finished speaking, the demons finally stopped, but their bodies were still shaking. They looked at each other, saw the look of luck in each other's eyes, and gasped. It seems to be okay. Seeing this scene, the three ancient creatures secretly breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that the sympathy card that the priest had asked them to play earlier had some effect. All right. I never thought that after I left, the human race would become so rampant. They dared to force the demon race to such a point. Where did they get the courage? The little demon king calmed down, gritted his teeth, and spoke word by word, his eyes full of coldness. What a despicable and sinister race. From ancient times to the present day, they still have that disgusting face. The little demon queen also spoke, disgust written all over her delicate face. In her opinion, the human race is a race that cannot be more disgusting. She should have killed all those humans back then. My king, please calm down. We believe that under your leadership, the demon race will surely regain its former glory. That adder also flattered at the right time. The little demon king and the other two were very pleased after hearing this. In their opinion, the reason why the demon race has declined until now is definitely because they lack the leadership of a king like them. And now, they have awakened in this world, and they will definitely take back everything that the demon clan lost in the past. You are right. The human race is nothing but chickens and dogs. We were able to defeat them in the past, and we can defeat them today. The little demon king clenched his 5 fingers, his dragon eyes flashing with golden light, and his domineering aura was revealed. Well, before I ascend to the upper realm, I will once again change the world and make the entire Tianyuan realm respect the demon race. After these words were spoken, the whole audience was excited. They have waited for this day for too long, and now they are about to witness history. They believe that just as the other party was able to suppress the human race to the point of suffocation in the past, they could also suppress the human race now and lead them to glory again. I have just awakened. It will take me a month to recover to my full strength. After a month, I will lead you to kill the #1 prodigy of the human race today. On top of the demon peak, the little demon king shook his head and then spoke lightly, with terrifying confidence in every gesture. His confidence is not fake, but comes from the confidence he gained back then. He was able to suppress the geniuses of a human race of an era in the past, and now he is confident that he can suppress them again. If possible, he hoped that the human genius of this world could interest him, otherwise it would be too boring. As soon as these words came out, the burning heat in everyone's eyes could not be suppressed at all, and they shouted in unison. My king is mighty. With the little demon king and the little demon queen around, they really couldn't imagine what those human geniuses would use to resist. You know, the number of human geniuses who died at the hands of the two opponents back then was enough to pile up into a mountain of corpses. Chapter 451 9 Realms, 1 month later. After these words were spoken, the whole audience was excited. They have waited for this day for too long, and now they are about to witness history. They believe that just as the other party was able to suppress the human race to the point of suffocation in the past, they could also suppress the human race now and lead them to glory again. I have just awakened. It will take me a month to recover to my full strength. After a month, I will lead you to kill the #1 prodigy of the human race today. On top of the demon peak, the little demon king shook his head and then spoke lightly, with terrifying confidence in every gesture. His confidence is not fake, but comes from the confidence he gained back then. He was able to suppress the geniuses of the human race of an era in the past, and now he is confident that he can suppress them again. If possible, he hoped that the human genius of this world could interest him, otherwise it would be too boring. As soon as these words came out, the burning heat in everyone's eyes could not be suppressed at all, and they shouted in unison. My king is mighty. With the little demon king and the little demon queen around, they really couldn't imagine what those human geniuses would use to resist. You know, the number of human geniuses who died at the hands of the two opponents back then was enough to pile up into a mountain of corpses. What's more, it is only the beginning of the great era, and the geniuses of the human race have not yet reached their peak. And their king, from the moment he woke up, has been a pure-blooded creature at the saint level, unrivaled in the world, capable of sweeping away any human forces in the 3 states. The Realm of 9 stands at the core of 2 hidden families. According to legend, this is the only channel connecting Tianyuan realm to the upper realm. Anyone who finds this place can attain enlightenment and ascend to the 9 heavens. This rumor also caused the saints of the world to scramble to find the legendary 9 realms, but unfortunately, they all ended up in regret. At this moment, the 9 realms pursued by countless saints stood majestically in the sky, like a portal to the sky. It was a gate leading to heaven, forged from bronze and covered with runes. From the crack of the gate, surging immortal energy was about to burst out. In front of the gate stood a young monk. He was dressed in a white jade Taoist robe. His aura was as deep as the ocean, and when his eyes opened and closed, there was an astonishing power that made even the void tremble. What shocked people the most was the golden energy and blood on the other party's body, which was as thick as the sea and penetrated the sky. If anyone were here, they would definitely recognize that this was the symbol of the Jun family's domineering bloodline. Obviously, the young cultivator in front of him with terrifying strength is from a Jun family. Jun exhaled a hint of mysterious yellow energy, slowly opened his eyes, and a hint of contempt flashed in his eyes. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth in these 10 realms is so scarce that it makes people feel pitiful. After only practicing for a month, I've almost absorbed all the spiritual energy in the 4 fields. Jun shook his head, as if he had thought of something, and sighed. It's no wonder that the geniuses in the lower realms are so weak and vulnerable. Fortunately, my clan sent me here to serve as the protector of the Jun family in the lower realms. They provided me with enough immortal essence, which allowed me to make some breakthroughs. Otherwise, the Tianyuan territory is really not a place for people to stay. Thinking of the immortal source of this reward, a hint of satisfaction flashed across Junyu's eyes as he murmured to himself. Now that several months have passed, the immortal treasure hunt has probably already ended. The clan has issued an order that if any good seedlings appear, they should be brought back to the Jun family as much as possible. If they cannot be brought back, they must not be recruited by hostile forces. But in my opinion, apart from the geniuses from the hidden families, the geniuses from the Tianyuan territory are also unlikely to achieve good results in the immortal treasure. The family's worries are unnecessary. Junyu's brows were very calm. In his eyes, those geniuses from the 3 states were not even as low as ants, and they were not worthy of his attention. As for whether he will become a threat to the Jun family in the upper realm in the future, this is even more of a joke. What's more, the Tianji Pavilion, which had a famous inheritance, actually said that there were monsters with talents beyond the 9th rank in the lower realm. TSK, 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 TSK. It's simply a fairy tale. If there really was such a monstrous genius, the Great Sects in the upper realms would have heard about it long ago. Why is it so quiet now? He shook his head, a faint smile in his eyes, and his words were full of arrogance. Soon, with a fluctuation of breath, an old man in purple robes appeared in the void. There was a very deep scar on his face, which was shocking. This person was none other than Jun Huayuan, the eldest elder of the Jun family. After seeing Jun Huayuan also hurriedly saluted respectfully and said, "Sir, we have prepared the ferry as per your instructions. We will depart for the 3 states tomorrow and expect to arrive in a month. By then, Wu Shuang will follow your wishes and march north to forge an invincible force." When he said this, Jun Huayuan couldn't hide his excitement. You know, this adult who came from the upper realm attaches great importance to Wu Shuang. I don't know what he likes about his grandson. If it were in the 3 states, those old antiques would probably be so scared that they would be speechless when they saw that the man-butcher, Jun Huayuan, was so respectful to a young cultivator. Good. Junyu just nodded slightly, with a look of satisfaction in his eyes. He originally thought that Jun Wushuang was just an ordinary heavenly tyrant body, but he didn't expect that as his cultivation became stronger, the concentration of his bloodline would become even richer. In the upper realm, their Jun family particularly values the concentration of blood, which also means that he has really discovered a good seedling this time. If Jun Wushuang is brought back to the upper realm and trained well, his future achievements are destined to be far higher than his. Thinking of this, Junyu felt a little envious and a little jealous, but it was quickly suppressed. He took a deep breath, shook his head, and said in a deep voice, "I called you here today, not only because I'm leaving, but also because I want you to absolutely ensure Jun Wushuang's safety during this journey north for training. He has great talent. If he were in the upper realm, he would be able to achieve great things." Junyu did not hide anything, but spoke directly. After hearing this, Jun Huayuan's pupils suddenly shrank. He didn't expect that Jun Wushuang could receive such affirmation from this extremely arrogant protector. His breathing became hot, and he quickly responded, "Sir, you can go without any worries. I assure you that Wushuang will not encounter any accidents before the immortal questioning conference." Seeing his solemn promise, Junyu looked at him with some suspicion. He always felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't put his finger on it. Jun Huayuan only showed a flattering smile and continued, "Sir, you don't know that the reason why I am so confident is because of the restrictions of the laws of heaven and earth in this Tianyuan realm. All living beings, except those from my hidden family, are forbidden from entering the realm of Saint King. In other words, those powerful people in the 3 states are at most saints." Hearing this, Junyu suddenly realized something and was a little surprised. It turned out that the mysterious power of rules that he felt was real. This world really had its own rules. However, Since this place is close to the 9 realms, the restrictions of the rules of heaven and earth will be much weaker, and the so-called rule that cannot be broken through by saints will not have much effect on the creatures here. No wonder the Jun and Z families from the lower world settled here. Of course, in addition to being able to get close to the 9 realms to break through the Saint King, there's another way, which is to use the treasure to block the secrets of heaven and achieve the same effect. However, such a treasure that can shield the secrets of heaven will be snatched away by major forces even if it is placed in the upper realm. How can it be obtained just by wanting it? What's more, this is the lower realm. If there is any, he can even write the 2 words Junyu backwards. Junyu was relieved. He didn't believe that a Saint King would encounter an accident in front of those saints. After all, the gap between the two was as huge as the difference between heaven and earth, like an insurmountable chasm. Junyu nodded slightly and said calmly, "Since you are sure, then I am relieved. But there is one more thing you have to remember. In addition to going north for training, Jun Wushuang is also going to compete for the title of the #1 prodigy in your Xintian territory. If you can secure this position, I can't tell you much, but the only thing I can be sure of is that this will be a tremendous opportunity for Jun Wushuang." After he finished speaking, Junyu looked into the distance with deep eyes. Chapter 452. The Ji family's prince, 1 month later. After he finished speaking, Junyu looked into the distance with deep eyes. Rumor has it that the most outstanding geniuses in the Xintian realm have always been blessed with the best fortune of the time, destined to become giants in the future. The girl with double pupils who was previously the best in the world, and the 9-crowned king who accompanied the great Tao, all came from the Xintian realm. After hearing this, Jun Huayuan suppressed the shock in his heart and swallowed secretly. Even this young man from the upper realm said, it was a heaven-defying opportunity. One can only imagine how terrifying the opportunity to capture the #1 genius in the Xintian realm would be. Perhaps this will be an opportunity for their Jun family to soar to success. Thank you for your guidance, sir. I will definitely keep in mind. With Schwanger's talent, if I knew that you were so optimistic about her, I would definitely strive to move forward and take the top spot in this region. Jun Huayan took a deep breath, his eyes burning with gratitude. That's naturally the best. There was also a smile on Junyu's lips. He naturally believed that the other party could do it. If he could win first place, it would be a good thing for him. Soon, Junyu seemed to sense something, his eyes changed slightly, and then he stepped into the air and came to the front of the 9 realms. He placed one hand lightly on the bronze door and spoke to him. Okay, my time in the lower realm is almost up. The next time we meet will be in 3 months. Jun Huayan nodded heavily, a hint of reluctance appearing on his face. Of course he knew why the other party left. The 10 realms are restricted by rules. Except during the Questioning Immortal Conference, anyone from the upper realm who came to the lower realm at any time would be excluded by the rules. Therefore, many forces will choose to come to Xintian territory to recruit disciples during the Questioning Immortals Conference. Of course, there are also some powerful forces that have their own sects in the lower realms. In order to compete for the first place in the lower realms, they will send people down in advance a few months before the Questioning Immortals Conference to cultivate their own geniuses. And it just so happens that this is the case with their Jun family in the upper realm. This young man, Junyu, is the person sent by their Jun family in the upper realm. Now the other party has been instructing Schwanger for some time. The mission has been completed, and the duration of the secret treasure is about to run out. So he wasn't very surprised. Just as Jun Huayuan was daydreaming, he heard that familiar voice again. He looked up at the sky and saw a young figure in the ancient portal, with the corners of his lips twitching, as if he was muttering something to himself. Jun Huayuan looked terrified. The sound was quite loud, and with his powerful cultivation, he could naturally hear it clearly. But when he heard it clearly, his face suddenly changed, and he looked towards the horizon in disbelief. Could it be that this adult thought he was gone? This Jun Wushuang is quite good. If possible, he can help me in the upper realm in the future. I don't know what happened in the 3,000 Dao provinces during this time in the lower world. Before coming here, there was a rumor in the 3,000 Dao provinces that the ancient Ji family seemed to be looking for the Emperor's son. Emperor's son. I dare not imagine how incredibly gifted a being of this caliber must be. If I could only meet him, I would die without regrets. If I were the prince, how wonderful it would be. Even the entire Jun family would bow down to me. Alas, all this is just wishful thinking. The sound that echoed throughout the heaven and earth gradually faded away with a sigh until it became silent. On the other side, Jun Huayuan's pupils suddenly shrank, and he repeated these 2 words in his mind. Ji family, the Emperor's son? He originally thought that in the upper realm, their Jun family was extremely powerful and no one could threaten them. However, he did not expect that the water in the upper realm was so deep. The so-called Ji family actually made this gentleman show such fear. He dare not imagine what kind of power the Ji family was. He was afraid that they could wipe out the Jun family in the lower realm with just a flick of their fingers. What shocked him the most was the Emperor's son that Jun mentioned. Just what kind of extraordinary and monstrous being could this Emperor's son be? Just his status alone was enough to make the upper realm Jun family, who regarded him as a scourge, bow down to him. Seeing Jun Yu completely disappear in the sky, Jun Huayuan couldn't help but release the shock in his heart. His face was dazed, and he wandered in place. I actually know about this level of important figures. If I can make my Schwanger follow this Ji family prince in the future, then our rest of life will be stable. Even if I enter the upper realm Jun family in the future, those bigwigs will still give me face. Jun Huayuan murmured, excitement flashing in his eyes, as if he had already imagined the future scene. After a while, he smiled, revealing a hint of arrogance. The previous look of superiority and inferiority disappeared completely, and he was like a completely different person. 1 month later, inside the Qian dojo, accompanied by a burst of raging flames, a sky full of red clouds bloomed from the sky. In it, the golden and dazzling figure of the golden crow was constantly flapping its wings, and billowing flames hung from its huge feathers like a big sun. Chapter 453. Nangong Chen is born, not finished yet, will be added later. Jun Huan nodded heavily, a hint of reluctance appearing on his face. Of course he knew why the other party left. The 10 realms were restricted by rules. Except during the questioning immortal conference, anyone from the upper realm who came to the lower realm at any time would be excluded by the rules. Therefore, many forces will choose to come to Xiantian territory to recruit disciples during the questioning immortals conference. Of course, there are also some powerful forces that have their own sects in the lower realms. In order to compete for the first place in the lower realms, they will send people down in advance a few months before the questioning immortals conference to cultivate their own geniuses. And it just so happens that this is the case with their Jun family in the upper realm. This young man, Jun Yu, is the person sent by their Jun family in the upper realm. Now the other party has been instructing Schwanger for some time. The mission has been completed, and the duration of the secret treasure is about to run out. So he wasn't very surprised. Just as Jun Huayuan was daydreaming, he heard that familiar voice again. He looked up at the sky and saw a young figure in the ancient portal, with the corners of his lips twitching, as if he was muttering something to himself. Jun Huayuan looked terrified. The sound was quite loud, and with his powerful cultivation, he could naturally hear it clearly. But when he heard it clearly, his face suddenly changed, and he looked towards the horizon in disbelief. Could it be that this adult thought he was gone? This Jun Wushuang is quite good. If possible, he can help me in the upper realm in the future. I don't know what happened in the 3,000 Dao provinces during this time in the lower world. Before coming here, there was a rumor in the 3,000 Dao provinces that the ancient Ji family seemed to be looking for the Emperor's son. Emperor's son, I dare not imagine how incredibly gifted a being of this caliber must be. If I could only meet him, I would die without regrets. If I were the prince, how wonderful it would be. Even the entire Jun family would bow down to me. Alas, all this is just wishful thinking. The sound that echoed throughout the heaven and earth gradually faded away with a sigh until it became silent. On the other side, Jun Huayuan's pupils suddenly shrank, and he repeated these 2 words in his mind. Ji family, the Emperor's son. He originally thought that in the upper realm, their Jun family was extremely powerful, and no one could threaten them. However, he did not expect that the water in the upper realm was so deep. The so-called Ji family actually made this gentleman show such fear. He dared not imagine what kind of power the Ji family was. He was afraid that they could wipe out the Jun family in the lower realm with just a flick of their fingers. What shocked him the most was the Emperor's son that Jun mentioned. Just what kind of extraordinary and monstrous being could this Emperor's son be? Just his status alone was enough to make the upper realm Jun family, who regarded him as a scourge, bow down to him. Seeing Jun Yu completely disappear in the sky, Jun Huayuan couldn't help but release the shock in his heart. His face was dazed, and he wandered in place. I actually know about this level of important figures. If I can make my Schwanger follow this Ji family prince in the future, then our rest of life will be stable. Even if I enter the upper realm Jun family in the future, those bigwigs will still give me face. Jun Huayuan murmured, excitement flashing in his eyes, as if he had already imagined the future scene. After a while, he smiled, revealing a hint of arrogance. The previous look of superiority and inferiority disappeared completely, and he was like a completely different person. 1 month later, inside the Qian dojo, accompanied by a burst of raging flames, a sky full of red clouds bloomed from the sky. In it, the golden and dazzling figure of the golden crow was constantly flapping its wings, and billowing flames hung from its huge feathers like a big sun. Chapter 454, Battle of Qishan. 1 month later, inside the Qian dojo, accompanied by a burst of raging flames, a sky full of red clouds bloomed from the sky. In it, the golden and dazzling golden crow divine figure was constantly flapping its wings, and billowing flames hung from its huge feathers, like a big sun. In the vast sun, a figure seemed to emerge from it and walk out slowly. Boom! With every step taken, terrifying ripples of fire spread in the void, like thunder exploding in the sky. Obviously, the son of the fallen sun god is about to be born. That terrifying pressure was enough to sweep across an area of dozens of miles. All living beings felt it, their eyes filled with horror, and they looked up at the sky that was as red as a burning sky, their bodies trembling involuntarily. Although some powerful remnants were not as fearful as ordinary beasts, their eyes were full of fear, as if a monster was about to be born in that sea of fire. Not long after, the surrounding area trembled and countless creatures left. When the monks who were hundreds of miles away saw this scene, their eyelids twitched and they picked up their weapons, thinking that the ferocious beast was about to enter. But who would have thought that the group of ferocious beasts just glanced at them and fled without looking back, as if there was something terrifying chasing them? Seeing this, the monks present looked at each other in confusion, and then looked up until they saw a terrifying golden crow figure, and their pupils suddenly shrank. What is this? Someone lost his voice, his eyes filled with dazzling fire. At this moment, the area around Qishan was filled with dense crowds of people. All the cultivators, geniuses, and strong men from various states gathered here today. Their eyes were extremely passionate and excited, and they occasionally looked towards the horizon, as if waiting for something. Such scenes can only be counted in the entire history of Xiantian realm, and each time a major event occurred. And today is no exception. It is the biggest focus battle in the past month. The ancient monster, the son of the fallen sun, fights against the world's #1 genius, the one with double pupils. The two are well-known figures in the entire Xiantian domain, and this battle has attracted the attention of all the cultivators in the 3 states. Because the outcome of this battle will determine who is the #1 genius in this world, and it also represents the strength of the geniuses of this world and the geniuses of ancient times. Whoever wins or loses represents the face of each side. As cultivators of this era, they naturally do not want the one with double pupils to lose. Therefore, the number of people who came to cheer for the one with double pupils today is the largest in history. However, there were also many disciples of the Sun God Palace hiding in the crowd, wanting to catch a glimpse of the fallen Sun God's son. Although the reputation of the Sun God Palace in the entire Xiantian domain is now rotten, it doesn't matter. After all, reputation is always written by the victor. As long as the son of the fallen Sun God can win today, their Sun God Palace can be revived and can even show off their power by stepping on the head of the current Overlord-level force, the Tianyuan divine dynasty. And these disciples of the Sun God Palace will also regain their former status. Thinking of this, many monks with turbans in the crowd couldn't help but feel hot and hoped very much that the man with double pupils would lose today. As time went by, the flames on Qishan became brighter and brighter, with lava bursting out and flowing from it, like a fire dragon stretching for thousands of miles. Qishan was left behind by a terrifying fire master. For cultivators with fire attributes, fighting or practicing here has many advantages. Of course, what it is most famous for is the strange rules of heaven and earth, which can restrict cultivators under 1,000 years old from entering. This also made many cultivators sigh at Fun Dao's scheming after learning about it, and he specially chose this place as the place for the final battle between the two. It is undoubtedly more advantageous for the son of fallen sun. But helplessly, in the face of this naked conspiracy, the person with double pupils still accepted it, which made many people feel that it was not worth it. Some people even believed that the man with double pupils acted impulsively and harmed himself, and that he would definitely lose the battle. Among the cultivators who came today, many powerful people from major sects all had this idea. Chapter 455 Nangong Chen is born. Of course, what it is most famous for is the strange rules of heaven and earth, which can restrict cultivators under 1,000 years old from entering. This also made many cultivators sigh at Fun Dao's scheming after learning about it, and he specially chose this place as the place for the final battle between the two. It is undoubtedly more advantageous for the son of fallen sun. But helplessly, in the face of this naked conspiracy, the person with double pupils still accepted it, which made many people feel that it was not worth it. Some people even believed that the man with double pupils acted impulsively and harmed himself, and that he would definitely lose the battle. Tianyuan Divine Dynasty, Prince's Mansion. 1 month's deadline is today. Shura, who is hidden in the void, slowly opened his eyes and murmured. This was also the first time he opened his eyes in this month. On weekdays, he used the terrifying spiritual power of the Saint King to fill the entire prince's mansion. He knew everything inside and outside the palace. Not to mention a human, even a mosquito could not fly in. Because all the servants in the mansion had been evacuated and it was blocked, the entire prince's mansion became quiet and far less lively than it was at the beginning. This is a great thing for practitioners, not to mention the evildoers of the time, as they can keep their ears clear and concentrate on practicing. At the same time, Shura's own mission was finally completed. Thinking of this, Shura secretly breathed a sigh of relief. This was the first time Nangong Chen gave him an order. It would be bad if he messed it up. The prince, hasn't he woken up yet? He glanced at the mansion in the center and seemed to be able to see the figures inside, and couldn't help but frowning. Although he has been in the Tianyuan divine dynasty, he is more or less aware of what is happening in the outside world. Over the past month, the entire 3 states have been looking forward to today's battle. What's more, what Fendao said before is still fermenting. If he really doesn't go today, it may have some impact on the prince's reputation. But he had also heard about the prince's opponent, who was an extremely amazing ancient freak, and even after this month, his strength would reach that of a saint. A hint of shock flashed across Shura's eyes. There were indeed geniuses in this world who could enter the realm of saints with a bone age under 1,000 years old. You know, it has been countless years since he broke through to the saint level. The battle between the world's geniuses is simply terrifying. Shura sighed inwardly. To be honest, if he were born in this era, he would probably be unknown. The 4 words Golden Age are not just talk. Anyone who can lead the crowd in this era and suppress the geniuses of his generation is a monster among monsters. But based on this point, he admired Nangong Chen from the bottom of his heart for being able to achieve such an amazing achievement in that immortal treasure and be the first in the 10 domains. In the past, I couldn't even imagine it. However, this time, the opponent should be considered an unprecedented, formidable foe for the crown prince. Shura thought to himself, a trace of worry appearing in his eyes. He actually hoped that the prince would not accept the challenge. After all, the other party had already broken through to the saint level. The gap between a saint and a quasi-saint was only known to those who had experienced it. It was like an insurmountable chasm. This trip is likely to be dangerous, but it was just a thought. With the other party status, what he did was naturally not something he could decide. All he could do was pray that the other party was safe. Just as Shura was daydreaming, an extremely terrifying aura burst out from the palace below. Shura's expression suddenly changed, and he looked over quickly. Chapter 456, Refining the 100 Refining Divine Canon and Coming Out of Seclusion. In the magnificent prince's mansion, majestic white fairy air gushed out, accompanied by the roar of the sound of the avenue, just like a fairy palace in the sky. In the fairy mist, there seemed to be a golden glow shining, and in an instant, the light illuminated the entire East Shenzhou. At this moment, the entire sky seemed to be covered with gold. In Dongzhou, countless creatures were startled and looked up at the sky with horror on their faces. Could this aura indicate the birth of a supreme treasure? Isn't that the Tianyuan divine dynasty? Oh my god, what happened to their Tianyuan divine dynasty again? The casual cultivators passing by stopped and murmured. When they learned that the terrifying vision came from the Tianyuan divine dynasty, everyone's eyes were filled with shock. On the other side, in the Tianyuan divine dynasty, people in the streets and alleys were looking at the place where the strange phenomenon was coming from, their faces stunned. They were not stupid and knew that area was obviously an important place for the imperial court and also where the imperial palace was located. If I remember correctly, today is the day the crown prince will come out of seclusion and face the fallen sun god Sun. Could this terrifying vision be? An old man exclaimed as if he had guessed something. As soon as these words were spoken, the pupils of the monks around him suddenly shrank. Obviously, they had also guessed something, and their breathing became a little hot. The sky above the prince's mansion. Shura was in great shock. He saw it more clearly than anyone else. If I'm not mistaken, there seems to be an ancient book looming in the vast golden sky. That's right, it's a book, a golden book. Every page is golden, covered with runes, and it seems that the sound of the Tao is rising. Just by taking a look, it was as if supreme scriptures were impacting my mind. Shura didn't dare to think about what the book hidden in the golden treasure was. Could it be another opportunity for the prince? He seemed to have thought of something, and his expression suddenly changed. At the same time, beside him, a halo ripple bloomed, and 2 figures slowly walked out of it. When Shura saw this, he also hurriedly saluted. In the entire divine dynasty, I'm afraid that the 2 people before us are not the only ones who can somehow come to the side of such a powerful person. That's right. These 2 people are Nangong Chen and Nangong Yu. The moment the vision appeared, the 2 of them felt it and quickly came here. Nangong Chen and Nangong Yu nodded slightly, and then turned their gaze to the strange phenomenon in the sky. When they saw the divine book in the golden light, they looked at each other and gasped. Is today the day Chun'er comes out of seclusion? Nangong Yu stroked his beard, with a hint of disbelief in his tone. If someone else were here today, they probably wouldn't be able to recognize him, but he is the strongest person in Tianyuan today, so naturally he has some discerning eyes. That treasure that looks like an ancient book must be a heaven-defying treasure, and it is no less precious than the human emperor's sword. He never expected that his grandson was so blessed with luck that all kinds of rare treasures could fall into his hands. It's simply outrageous, even more outrageous than his disappointing son. The last person who shocked him this much was the other person's mother. Thinking of this, Nangong Yu suppressed the shock in his heart and looked down with a complicated look. What did you see? What was that? Nangong Chen, who was standing aside, looked at him anxiously. Upon hearing this, Shura also looked over, full of curiosity. He could understand the majestic immortal energy to some extent. After all, he had been protecting the prince for so long and knew about the extraordinary cultivation techniques of the other party. But he still didn't know what that golden ancient book was. Chun'er has refined another treasure, a treasure that is no less valuable than the human emperor's sword. Nangong Yu shook his head and said softly. As soon as these words were spoken, the two of them looked extremely excited. They had never thought that within this month, they could actually refine a treasure for each other. It's still not inferior to the human emperor's sword. This concept is extremely terrifying. You know, they all witnessed the power of the human emperor's sword before. Killing enemies of higher levels is as easy as drinking water. So what kind of miraculous function does this thing have? It seems that this battle is promising. Nangong Chen smiled, and his previous worries were relieved. Chapter 457, Refining the 100 Refining Divine Code, Ling Chinchio. At the same time, in the prince's palace, Nangong Chen was dressed in a snow-white robe, sitting cross-legged in the center. The snow-white robe fluttered in the wind, and his whole body was emitting a surge of immortal energy, as if he was a real immortal in the world. He closed his eyes tightly and circulated the Tao immortal crystal with his breath, and a crystal light seemed to emerge from his arms. Those were actually immortal orifices that were madly devouring the surrounding spiritual energy. This kind of scene has been played out countless times in this month. It is so terrifying. You know, ever since Nangong Chen personally delivered more than 56,000 immortal crystals that day, the concentration of spiritual energy in this hall has already reached an astonishing level. If an ordinary person stayed there for half a day, he would probably absorb too much and explode to death. And Nangong Chen actually stayed there for a whole month as if nothing had happened. If this were to be told to others, I'm afraid no one in the world would believe it. But that was the fact. Beside him, the rows of dull fairy crystals explained it all. Soon, the sound of breaking through the air was heard. A terrifying power emanated from Nangong Chen, shaking the entire world. Nangong Chen had a calm expression as he slowly opened his eyes. The immortal energy in the void suddenly dissipated, and the golden sacred book hidden inside also turned into a golden light and escaped into his body. At this moment, an indescribable light burst out from those double pupils, half golden and half gray, which was the combination of the profound energy of the 100 refining divine canon and the chaotic energy. Just by looking up, any void here seems to be collapsing and shattering. Time flies. Nangong Chen spoke, and because he had not spoken for a long time, his voice was a little hoarse. He now finally understood that for a cultivator, time is nothing but a passing cloud. After all, for him, this month was like blinking and drinking water, and he didn't feel much. Of course, this is just talk. The improvement of one's own strength is real. Thinking of this, a hint of satisfaction flashed across Nangong Chen's eyes. More than 56,000 immortal crystals were all absorbed without missing a single one. Now, his body, together with the original 30 immortal orifices, has reached a point of 115 immortal orifices. This was a terrifying concept, and it enhanced his physical body by who knows how many times. His physical body alone is enough to defeat countless Yang Kunlun and Yang Zhen. Even if he were to clash with the holy soldiers at full strength, he would not be at all inferior. Similarly, his improvement did not stop there. His cultivation also reached the peak of quasi-saint. During this month, he advanced 3 small realms. You should know that he has not been a quasi-saint for long. Now, he is only one step away from becoming the saint who is unattainable to everyone. If this were to be made public, I'm afraid people outside would be so shocked that they would be speechless. Soon, Nangong Chen's mind moved, and a small golden book flew out from his mind and placed in the void. This is the biggest gain of this month, the divine weapon that surpasses the imperial weapon, the 100 refining divine cannon. Nangong Chen muttered to himself, a look of surprise flashing in his eyes. Only after completely refining the 100 refining divine scripture did one realize its extraordinary nature. It has two incredible functions. One is that during battle, it can dismantle the opponent's moves and let you know the opponent's weaknesses and strengths. This can be regarded as an enhanced version of his double pupils. After all, double pupils cannot break down the opponent's martial arts. The second is to be able to adopt the skills and martial arts used by the other party so that you can learn them yourself. Of course, there are some limitations. Only opponents with similar skills can be accepted. If the gap is too big, they cannot be accepted. At the same time, each accepted skill will occupy a page of the 100 Refinements Divine Canon, and the 100 Refinements Divine Canon has a total of 3,000 pages available. This role played an indispensable role in M.O. Han's counterattack from a useless person to where he is today, and it is also the most incredible one. Nangong Chen thought to himself, carefully looking at the golden book in front of him. Soon, he turned to the first 30 pages of the 100 Refinements Divine Canon, all of which had been used as exercises by others. No need to think, it was M.O. Han who did it. After flipping through it, Nangong Chen shook his head, looking a little disappointed. I thought M.O. Han could include some good skills, but I didn't expect them to be all rubbish. The highest level is just a heavenly grade technique, or a low-grade one that imitates Kunping's magic. He had seen that move before, and it was far less powerful than the real magic. After all, it was just an imitation. This 100 refining divine scripture will definitely not produce good results in the hands of the other party. Nangong Chen's eyes were full of meaning. Fortunately, M.O. Han had given up his life, otherwise this bright pearl would have been covered in dust. Of course, this 100 refining divine scripture can produce great results in his hands. After all, the two people are at different levels. The opponents he fights are all freaks from ancient, present, and future, and the skills they practice are all top-notch, or they're the secret skills of a Taoist sect that are not passed down. If he could steal it and learn it, it would be a huge improvement for him. It might even be possible for him to use the opponent's tactics to defeat the opponent. Thinking of that scene, Nangong Chen's mouth corners curled up slightly. Ling Qinxiu. Nangong Chen whispered silently. The next moment, a petite and delicate figure jumped out from the golden book, her pink hair spread out like a waterfall, hanging down to her waist. Her face was breathtakingly beautiful, like an elf walking out of a painting or calligraphy. Master, I'm here. Ling Qianxiu's eyebrows were curved, like a crescent moon, and she sat barefoot on the 100 Refinements Divine Scripture. Nangong Chen looked at her, and even though he was used to seeing the most stunning beauties in the world, he was still a little dazed. But soon, he came to his senses and his eyes returned to calmness. Ling Qianxiu is the spirit of the 100 Refining Divine Canon, a pink-haired girl. He only knew this after he completely refined the 100 Refining Divine Canon. But what's interesting is that M.O. Han seems to have never even met the other party. Delete all the techniques that M.O. Han has adopted, Nangong Chen said slowly. After the words fell, Ling Qianxiu stretched out her white hand, and her fair little hand slightly pinched the seal, and a flash of pink light flowed into the 100 Refining Divine Canon. The next moment, the 30 pages containing the martial arts techniques all disappeared, leaving only the crystal-clear pages. Seeing this, Nangong Chen nodded slightly. Good. After receiving the other party's affirmation, Ling Qianxiu showed his two little fangs and smiled charmingly. It's time to come out and extinguish the last hope of the Sun Palace. Nangong Chen murmured, clenching his 5 fingers, and the surging immortal energy wrapped around his arms, causing the void to tremble. Ling Qianxiu looked at this scene, with a complex feeling in the depths of his eyes, mixed with joy, excitement, sadness, etc. I finally found you, my master. Chapter 458, Gathering at Qishan. At this moment, in Qishan, central China, as time passed, more and more prominent forces in Xintian domain arrived at the foot of the mountain, all to witness the shocking battle today. Oh my God, the Immortal Li family, they're here, too. At the foot of the mountain, someone exclaimed and looked into the void several miles away. Everyone's expression changed slightly, and they looked over suddenly. There, I saw flying boats with the words Li family on their signs crossing the river and flying towards Qishan. Not long after, it stopped in the air, and 3 figures slowly walked out of it. The leader was a white-haired old man with a deep aura, and every move he made exuded a terrifying pressure. Obviously, this is a saint, and the best among saints. Behind him were 2 younger figures, with tall and straight bodies and confident eyes, and they also had a temperament that was difficult for ordinary people to describe. The monks present couldn't help but gasp after seeing the 3 people clearly. The Li family's ancestor and the 2 prides of the Li family are here. No one expected that the Leaf family, the first major force to show up today, would send out people with such ridiculously high identities. Of course, this also indirectly proves that the Leaf family attaches great importance to today's battle. This trip is worth it. Even a figure like Overlord wants to watch the battle with us. A young genius sighed, his eyes full of passion. If it were in the past, he might have shouted excitedly. After all, that was the Overlord, but today was different. The real protagonist was the one with double pupils. Soon, after a brief sigh, everyone looked into the distance with anticipation on their faces. After all, the presence of the Leaf family and others in today's battle is just an appetizer, and no one knows which forces will come next. Not long after, shocking voices rang out one after another. In the distant sky, flying boats of many forces have appeared. Chu City, the Chu family, Qilin sect, Howard Pavilion. Hiss, they're all here. There are also 3 major holy places, the Astronomy Holy Land, the Heavenly Sword Holy Land, and the Heavenly Formation Holy Land. They are here too. Everyone stared at the sky intently, their eyes filled with horror. When you see those figures that you never see normally coming down from the carriage, they felt like they were dreaming and couldn't believe that almost all the major forces in Xintian domain had come. Is this the influence of a person with double pupils? Someone murmured, his eyes dazed. At the same time, Qishan was in the air. I never thought that we would gather together at this time. Li Qishan looked at the familiar figures that appeared one after another with a complicated expression. He was happy that he hadn't seen them for a long time, but also shocked. He had thought that these brothers who had fought together in the Xinzong expedition might never meet each other again in this life since the end of the Xinzong expedition. If there was a chance for them to meet, it would probably be at some major event like the Questioning Immortals conference a few months later, but what they never expected was that the battle at Xishan would bring them together here. Yeah, it makes me miss it, but there's always something missing. Li Muxiu also spoke, and after a round of inspection, he gradually set his eyes on the top of the Red Mountain and the 2 missing figures. Chapter 459. The Terror of the Fallen Son of the Sun. After a brief moment of distraction, Li Qishan finally came to his senses after being reminded by Li Muxiu. He quickly smiled and responded to them one by one. When the leaders of these forces saw this, they did not stop it and acquiesce to it, even though some of these forces were in a competitive relationship. After Li Qishan and the others reminisced about the past, they gradually turned their gazes to the empty mountaintop, their expressions gradually becoming solemn. They felt a burning passion rising up. The next moment, the sea of clouds above Qishan Mountain was filled with flames, as if some terrifying creature was about to be born from it. For a moment, the entire Red Mountain was boiling, bright red magma gushed out. The ground collapsed, and the mountains were destroyed, as if the Earth Dragon had resurrected. The pupils of everyone present suddenly shrank, and their faces froze. Despair, despair. Heavy footsteps suddenly sounded, especially obvious in this silent world, like the sound of a bell, shaking everyone's heart. A figure bathed in flames walked out from the sea of fire, accompanied by the divine form of the Golden Crow. When its eyes opened and closed, it looked like a huge, radiant sun. With every step taken, red ripples bloom in the void, and the space trembles. In an instant, a terrifying pressure came upon him, sweeping across the entire world. The figure was too mysterious and too hot, like an ancient god, and the dazzling glow made it almost impossible to open one's eyes. Gulong! Someone present couldn't help swallowing, and the sound was clearly visible in the silent world. Even if the cultivators present were so stupid, they should all know that the son of fallen sun god. He is coming. Now that you have seen the Son of God, why don't you bow down and worship him? Another figure emerged from the holy sun, his robe rustling in the scorching sun. It was Fundao. There was a hint of smile on his lips, and his eyes scanned the ground below with great confidence, as if victory for the day was already decided. Fundao, he still dares to show up. When the powerful people present saw this, they were furious, especially the Chu family. You know, if Fundao hadn't played tricks on the Chu family's ancestral land in the past, they wouldn't have had that accident. You bastard, give me your life. A strong man from the Chu family took action. He was an elderly quasi-saint. A ray of light burst out from his hand, and the tip of the holy white spear whizzed out, tearing through the void and killing towards the burning path. If a quasi-saint faced the terrifying spear intent head-on, he would probably die on the spot. When everyone saw this, their expressions changed slightly. Although they didn't say anything, they all agreed in their hearts that the Chu family should take action. After all, they were also unhappy with Fundao. The strong men from several other forces were also watching, frowning slightly. The other party is already weak today. If they show off in front of them again, don't blame them for teaching them a lesson and letting them know whose territory this is. Even if some ancient monster is here, don't even think about letting them show any disrespect to it. Ants. The next moment, a disdainful voice sounded. Bathed in flames, the son of the fallen sun took action. He stretched out his hand and lightly flicked it in front of the terrifying tip of the gun. In an instant, the space distorted and a sonic boom sounded. Boom! The holy white spear was actually bounced away by the huge force, bursting out with an unprecedented speed and shot towards the Chu family elder who had just made a move. With a puff, the elder of the Chu family who had just taken action fell to the ground with a pierced-through chest, and his life was gone in an instant. When everyone saw this scene, the smiles on their faces froze. Chapter 460 Tianyuan, Divine Dynasty, is coming to them. Now that you've seen the Son of God, why don't you bow down and worship him? Another figure emerged from the holy sun, his robe rustling in the scorching sun. It was Fendao. There was a hint of smile on his lips, and his eyes scanned the ground below with great confidence, as if victory for the day was already decided. Fendao, he still dares to show up? When the powerful people present saw this, they were furious, especially the Chu family. You know, if Fendao hadn't played tricks on the Chu family's ancestral land in the past, they wouldn't have had that accident. You bastard, give me your life. A strong man from the Chu family took action. He was an elderly quasi-saint. A ray of light burst out from his hand, and the tip of the holy white spear whizzed out, tearing through the void and killing towards the burning path. If a quasi-saint faced the terrifying spear intent head-on, he would probably die on the spot. When everyone saw this, their expressions changed slightly. Although they didn't say anything, they all agreed in their hearts that the Chu family should take action. After all, they were also unhappy with Fendao. The strong men from several other forces were also watching, frowning slightly. The other party is already weak today. If they show off in front of them again, don't blame them for teaching them a lesson and letting them know whose territory this is. Even if some ancient monster is here, don't even think about letting them show any disrespect to it. Ants. The next moment, a disdainful voice sounded. Bathed in flames, the son of the fallen sun took action. He stretched out a finger and lightly flicked it in front of the terrifying gun tip. In an instant, the space distorted and a sonic boom sounded. Boom! The holy white spear was actually bounced away by the huge force, bursting out with an unprecedented speed and shot towards the Chu family elder who had just made a move. With a hiss, the sound that penetrated the flesh and blood was particularly clear throughout the world. After a few breaths, the Chu family elder who had just made the move finally reacted and looked at his body in a daze. There was a shocking, bloody hole on the chest. Blood kept flowing out of the corners of his mouth until he was completely exhausted. With a sudden bang, he fell to the ground. When everyone saw this scene, the smiles on their faces froze and their minds went blank. What is this? A living quasi-saint was killed instantly like that. After a while, some people gradually came to their senses, their eyes widened, and their faces were filled with shock. How dare you? Someone from the Chu family was furious. A terrifying figure stood on the dome, his eyes full of murderous intent. The terrifying aura from the saint spread out in all directions without reservation. Everyone looked intently, and this was the core powerhouse of the Chu family. It's him, the patriarch of the Chu family, Chu Shanhe. Someone recognized the figure and exclaimed. After hearing this, everyone felt relieved, and there was a hint of amusement in their eyes when they looked at the son of the fallen sun. It was indeed arrogant to kill an elder of the Chu family in public. But can you bear the consequences of this arrogance? You know, some time ago, the head of the Chu family broke through to the saint level, which caused a sensation throughout Zhongzhou. Even on that day, he had a duel and discussion with 3 saints from Zhongzhou, and he was not at a disadvantage even when he was outnumbered 3. Such terrifying combat power shocked all the strong men in Zhongzhou. There are also veteran saints who say that Chu Shanhe is qualified to be among the top powerful ones. Now, facing an ancient monster that has just been born, he must be completely suppressed. Chapter 461, I'll make up for it later. Thinking of this, many young monks around Qishan smiled at the same time. After all, it is rare in the entire history for a true top-level expert from the Xiantian realm to take action and suppress the arrogance of the son of the fallen sun. At the same time, it is also what they expect to see. And on the Chu family side, at this moment, these disciples gradually recovered from their fear, and their faces were replaced by anger. They hadn't expected that the damned son of the fallen sun god was so powerful that he actually dared to kill their people. They were completely arrogant and utterly conceited. Looking across the entire Xiantian territory, who wouldn't dare give the Chu family face? Chief, kill him. That's right, he must pay the price and give our Chu family an explanation. Most of the Chu family stood up at this moment, speaking towards the sky, gritting their teeth, with undisguised murderous intent in their eyes. Chu Xing was also watching this scene, silent, with his fists clenched tightly, feeling incomparable anger and powerlessness. He was angry that the other party dared to act like this, without considering the consequences and taking human lives. At the same time, he also felt the gap that was like an insurmountable chasm. A young genius was about to leave the entire Chu family without anyone. It was the turn of the patriarch to take action himself. If it were someone with double pupils, they would definitely not act like this. In a trance, Chu Xing's throat was a little dry. He glanced at the beautiful woman beside him and said, "Sister, do you think father can really make the other party pay the price?" After Chu Yin gently placed the body of the dead elder into the ice coffin, he remained silent, until I heard Chu Xing asking questions. She gradually came to her senses and looked at the figure behind the void that was like the scorching sun, with an unprecedented coldness in her beautiful eyes. "If not, as long as I'm still alive, I will take his head, even if I have to go to the underworld." Chu Yin gritted her teeth, her tone filled with a determination to face death. Seeing this scene, Chu Xing stood there in a daze. After Xianzong came back, this was the first time he saw such a strong reaction from the other party. Back to midair. At this moment, everyone was looking at the figure holding the silver spear with anticipation in their eyes. They all believed that the other party would definitely give the ignorant son of the fallen sun a painful price. Bold! Ha ha ha! Seeing this scene, Fan Dao couldn't help laughing, without a trace of nervousness. Then, he continued, "That's hilarious. What? You're the only ones allowed to attack, but we're not allowed to fight back. TSK, TSK, TSK. You Chu family really take yourselves too seriously, don't you? If it were before, little Chu, you wouldn't even dare to fart in front of me. Now that you've reached the level of a saint, do you really think you're big shot? In my opinion, the reason your Chu family is gradually declining is because of a useless patriarch like you." Fan Dao stroked his beard, revealing his yellow teeth, and the sarcasm in his smile was completely undisguised. Chu Shanha took a deep breath, ignored it, and instead clenched the holy weapon in his hand and rushed towards the fallen sun god's son. He originally thought of just taking the other person's arm, but now it seems that there is no need to spare the life of such a beast. But unfortunately, it was the kid with double pupils who got the advantage, and he won a victory in vain. To be honest, he was still reluctant to take action in his heart, and it was mostly because of Chu Yin, because in his opinion, the strength of the fallen sun god's son is much stronger than that of the man with double pupils. In the battle between the two sides today, the man with double pupils will most likely lose. This is a great opportunity to humble that kid. It can also make my daughter calm down and let her know that there are geniuses in the world who are even more evil than that kid. What a pity, what a pity. Chu Shanha silently withdrew his thoughts, and the tip of the spear in his hand slightly rippled. The silver dragon-like spear suddenly burst out with a terrifying gun light. It's like a dragon soaring in the sky. This spear intent was far more sophisticated and mature than that of his daughter Chu Yin, and it changed the entire sky. Seeing this scene, the monks present looked at each other and could see the shock in each other's eyes. Instead, there's a deep joy. However, Fan Dao, who was in the void, had a sallow face but remained calm as he said calmly, "For the sake of our long-standing acquaintance, I advise you to stop and not provoke the master. Otherwise, the consequences will be very serious." He was indeed giving the other party serious advice at this moment. In his opinion, it was totally unnecessary to let the son of fallen sun god devote extra energy to dealing with this old waste. The boy with double pupils is the most important thing today. He will never be at peace until the other party dies. However, to Chu Shanha, these words of advice sounded like naked sarcasm. "Oh," Chu Shanha sneered, without reducing the power in his hands at all, and even continued to exert force. Chapter 462, He is a Saint. Seeing that the extremely bright spear light was about to fall on the son of the fallen sun god, everyone shook their heads slightly, as if they had already seen the other party's death. What a pity. I thought we could see a stunning battle between geniuses today, and in the void. Chu Shanha also breathed a sigh of relief, his eyes looking somewhat complicated. It seems that this so-called ancient freak is just a wimp who can't stand the pressure. Until now, he hasn't made any move. It is worth it to sacrifice his life to atone for Chu Yun's death. But what made him feel a little strange was that Fan Dao, a saint, could still sit still at this critical moment. However, the next moment, his pupils suddenly shrank. The extremely bright gun light was completely swallowed up by a strange flame the moment it touched the opponent. He even couldn't feel any connection with the holy soldiers. What the hell just happened? Chu Shanha couldn't help but spit. At this moment, the world was silent. The monks who were watching around Qishan had their throats rolling and their eyes turned pale. What did they see? The saint's full-strength attack was unexpectedly taken by the son of the fallen sun god without a scratch. Even Chu Shanna's natal sacred weapon, the Wanxiong spear, was completely devoured by the opponent's strange flames. At this moment, the son of the fallen sun god finally walked out of the blazing flames. His figure was no longer blurred, revealing his original appearance. Everyone suddenly saw that it was an extremely strange young man. He had an indifferent expression, his upper body was naked, his whole body was wrapped in a mysterious flame, and when his eyes opened and closed, a sea of fire swept across, like a fiery lord walking out of purgatory. He held the 3-inch Liantian ruler in one hand and looked down at the entire Qishan. Some people even saw that there was a broken piece of gun body on the magic weapon held in the hands of the fallen sun god's son, which was being continuously refined at this moment. In the void, Chu Shanha took all of this in and was stunned on the spot. Before he could think about it, he met that terrifying gaze and felt a chill on his back. There seemed to be a raging flame in that look, burning his mind, and the scorching temperature made him tremble all over. The next moment, the other party moved like a bolt of lightning, leaping among the layers of clouds. Before Chu Shanha could react, a fiery figure appeared in his sight. Immediately afterwards, he felt a terrifying force gripping his neck. Chu Shanha widened his eyes and looked at the young man in front of him who looked like a ghost, his mind going blank. In an instant, the whole world was silent. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the Chu family's indomitable leader was lifted up in the air, unable to move. He is a saint. It was not until the terrifying pressure came that the strong man reacted and spoke tremblingly. As soon as these words were spoken, the legs of some weak monks present went weak and they collapsed on the spot, their eyes full of disbelief. No one expected that the previous rumor was true, and the other party really broke through to the saint level within this month. No, it would be better to say that he has recovered to the level before he fell asleep. At this moment, no matter they were independent cultivators or geniuses from sects, or even the top power from all sides, their faces were filled with horror. Fun Dao smiled and looked at this scene as if he had expected it. Then, he looked at Chu Shanha, who was held high up with some pity. I told you to stop. Are you behaving now? Are you a saint? Chu Shanha's throat was a little dry, and his eyes were full of regret. He didn't expect that the opponent would be so strong. Before he could even see the opponent's speed, he had already arrived in front of him. Of course, this also indirectly shows the huge gap between oneself and the other party. The opponent's strength is far from being as simple as that of a beginner saint. Is this the ancient freak? If he had known this earlier, he wouldn't have acted so easily. Now, he finally understood why the other party and that old dog Fun Dao were so confident. A monster who has reached the saint level is enough to gain a foothold in the entire East Shenzhou. Among the strong people in the world, no one could pose any threat to him except those who are above the saints. Not to mention, today the other party is going to fight with the man with double pupils. The gap between the two can be said to be a fairy tale. Thinking of this, Chu Shanha laughed at himself. He came here to watch the battle, but he didn't expect that this battle that had already decided the outcome would trap him himself. Who is the one with double pupils? Tell me. An extremely cold voice suddenly sounded, and the tone was full of unquestionableness. Chu Shanha was stunned. He had already prepared himself to die, but he didn't expect that the other party would ask him this. Sir, the one with double pupils is not here. Just as Chu Shanha was about to speak, another flattering voice sounded. The owner of this voice was none other than Fun Dao. After hearing this, Chu Shanha took back what he was about to say, but he didn't expect that the son of Fallen Yang was still staring at him and ignored Fun Dao at all. When Chu Shanha saw this scene, he suddenly realized something, and there was a hint of mockery in his eyes when he looked at Fun Dao. Unexpectedly, the relationship between these two people was not as solid as he imagined. He's right. The one with double pupils is not here. Chu Shanha spoke and glanced at Fun Dao. After he finished speaking, there was a hint of contemplation in the eyes of the son of God Fallen Yang. Also, I might as well remind you that now that your cultivation has been exposed, it won't be long before the Tianyuan divine dynasty will get the news. They will most likely not come to this battle. Chu Shanha said quietly. What he meant was that they were just here to watch the fight, and now that the real boss wasn't coming, there was no point in arresting me, so you might as well let me go. Aren't you coming? The son of the fallen sun god muttered, his aura extremely terrifying. Fun Dao's eyes flashed with fear, and he quickly spoke. Sir, if he doesn't come, then we can take this opportunity to restore our sun palace, and use this as an article to publicize it. Let everyone in the world know that the most proud person with double pupils today is afraid of you and won't come a fight. When the time is right, we will be able to destroy the Tianyuan divine dynasty in one fell swoop. The reason why he didn't directly let the son of fallen Yang go to the Tianyuan divine dynasty to find the person with double pupils was not because he had heard people in the Tianyuan divine dynasty say that there was an existence above the saints, that is, the legendary Saint King. The Saint King is the realm that countless saints in the Xiantian realm have been pursuing throughout their lives. You must know that the Xiantian realm has the rules of heaven and earth, and being a saint is already the highest level. Unless you are in the distant 9 realms or have a chance to conceal the secrets of heaven, don't even think about entering that realm. And in the Xiantian territory, there have been terrifying figures like the Saint King, but they are only found in that hidden family. And now, according to the information he has collected these days, it seems that there is more than one Saint King in the Tianyuan divine dynasty. This is intriguing. It means that the Tianyuan divine dynasty must have some unknown secrets. Thinking of this, Fen Dao's eyes couldn't help but become hot. In some time, the son of fallen Yang God will leave Xiantian realm and go to the upper realm. He also wanted to take advantage of the time when the other party was in Xiantian territory and use him to attack Tianyuan divine dynasty and monopolize the secret. In this way, even if the other party goes to the upper realm in the future, he can still dominate the Xiantian realm. No, that's too slow. The son of the fallen sun god flatly rejected his idea. Sir, they have the Sage King in the Tianyuan divine dynasty. Fen Dao warned the other party to prevent him from doing anything stupid. Saint King? Give me a few months, I might be able to fight him. The son of the fallen sun god said lightly, with extreme confidence. Then, he looked at Chu Shanhe, his tone extremely cold. If he doesn't come today, you will die in his place. As soon as these words were spoken, Chu Shanhe's face changed instantly, and he wanted to curse in his heart. What does it mean that if the person with double pupils doesn't come, I will die for him? Does it mean that I am just a burial companion? What's more, the person with double pupils is not a fool. He knows that you have broken through to become a saint. How could he possibly come back? If you want to kill me, just say so. Chu Shanhe's face darkened, and he remained silent. On the other side, at the foot of Qishan Mountain, everyone in the Chu family looked panicked and anxious. Let go of our clan leader. I originally thought that the clan leader, a saint, could make the other party, an ignorant kid, pay the price, but who would have thought that this would be the result? A saint was captured alive by the son of the fallen sun god. At this time, they already regretted it very much, regretting that they should have persuaded Chu Shanhe to stop. If Chu Shanhe had an accident here today, it would undoubtedly be a huge blow to their Chu family. Chu Xing was a little speechless for a moment and looked extremely nervous. Even though he was unhappy with his father, he had to admit that he was now the backbone of the entire Chu family. If I die here, something terrible will happen. Sister, what should I do? Chu Xing turned his head to look to the side, but found that Chu Yan's figure had disappeared long ago, and he was stunned. At the same time, on the Li family's flying boat. After seeing this scene in the air, the Li family members were also extremely shocked and marveled at the strength of the fallen sun god's son. I never thought that the son of the fallen sun god is actually a saint. Yeah, he's only that old, and he's already a saint. You know, even those with double pupils don't have such a monstrous talent. Is this the talent of ancient freaks? It's simply terrifying. Furthermore, this strength is completely unlike that of a newcomer who has just broken through to the saint level. He captured the Chu family leader in a single encounter. I think only an old-time saint can contend with him. In the current situation, everyone knows the terrifying power of the fallen sun god's son. Add in the presence of Fen Dao, and they already have 2 saints. I'm afraid no force would be willing to take action against them. For the Chu family, I'm afraid they will bleed heavily today. Someone seemed to have thought of something, shook his head, and said with regret. Not long after, a graceful figure appeared outside the flying boat. In just a few steps, she passed them and came in front of the Li family's bigwigs, looking extremely panicked. After everyone saw it clearly, there was a hint of surprise in their eyes. Hey, isn't this the saintess of the Chu family? Yeah, why is she here? She looks so hurried, could it be? They looked at each other, and the answer emerged in their minds. Chu Yan of the Chu family requests to see the Li family's ancestor. As soon as she came up, Chu Yan lowered her usual demeanor, bowed slightly, and her beautiful eyes were full of pleading. Saint Chu, what are you doing? When Li Qishan saw it, he was stunned, but then he quickly reacted and rushed to the backyard. Seeing him leave, Li Muxiu sighed lightly and hurried to Chu Yan to find a seat for her. Saint Lady Chu, the ancestor will be here soon. Please get up and sit down and wait. Chu Yan shook her head slightly. She knew that when asking for help, one should act like one is asking for help. Seeing her like this, Li Muxiu didn't say much, but just comforted her. We are also aware of Patriarch Chu's current situation. Don't worry, my brother and I will help you ask the ancestor for help. After hearing this, Chu Yan felt a little more touched and nodded. After a while, Li Songhai and Li Qixin appeared in a hurry. After knowing Chu Yan's intention, Li Songhai pondered for a while, looked at the three figures in the void, and said in a deep voice, "I also didn't expect that the fallen sun god sun would be so terrifyingly powerful. The fluctuations he just made were enough to make even the saints in the world wary. He has captured your clan leader. Logically, he should have taken action long ago. But until now, there has been no movement. This means that he will not kill your clan leader in short term." After saying this, Chu Yan felt relieved. In a short period of time, that is to say, what are they waiting for? Li Muxiu immediately grasped the core of the problem and spoke quickly. Li Songhai nodded slightly, with a hint of appreciation in his eyes. "That's right. So, they are waiting for someone with double pupils?" Li Qixin also spoke, scratching his head, somewhat puzzled. After she finished speaking, Chu Yan's beautiful eyes froze, as if she was recalling the figure that day in the immortal treasury, which looked like a god descending from heaven. But in today's situation, the other party should not come. After all, the strength of the fallen sun god sun is so terrifying, and his cultivation has even broken through to the saint level. You know, some time ago, all she knew about the other party was that he won the championship in the wilderness competition. The gap between a quasi-saint and a saint is far beyond what a being like her can imagine. Thinking of this, Chu Yan's heart tightened, and she inexplicably hoped that the other party would not come this time. However, at this moment, in the void not far away, several huge flying boats were heading towards here. The black and gold lines that looked like a black dragon, coupled with the flag with the word Tianyuan on it, were almost telling the people of the world that the Tianyuan divine dynasty had arrived. Chapter 463, The Divine Dynasty Arrives. At the same time, on the Leaf family's flying boat. After seeing this scene in the air, the Leaf family members were also extremely shocked and marveled at the strength of the fallen sun god sun. I never thought that the son of the fallen sun god is actually a saint. Yeah, he's only that old, and he's already a saint. You know, even those with double pupils don't have such a monstrous talent. Is this the talent of ancient freaks? It's simply terrifying. Furthermore, this strength is completely unlike that of a newcomer who has just broken through to the saint level. He captured the Chu family leader in a single encounter. I think only an old-time saint can contend with him. In the current situation, everyone knows the terrifying power of the fallen sun god sun. Add in the presence of Fun Dao, and they already have two saints. I'm afraid no force would be willing to take action against them. For the Chu family, I'm afraid they will bleed heavily today. Someone seemed to have thought of something, shook his head, and said with regret. Not long after, a graceful figure appeared outside the flying boat. In just a few steps, she passed them and came in front of the Leaf family's bigwigs, looking extremely panicked. After everyone saw it clearly, there was a hint of surprise in their eyes. "Hey, isn't this the saintess of the Chu family? Yeah, why is she here? She looks so hurried, could it be?" They looked at each other, and the answer emerged in their minds. Chu Yan of the Chu family requests to see the Leaf family's ancestor. As soon as she came up, Chu Yan lowered her usual demeanor, bowed slightly, and her beautiful eyes were full of pleading. "Saint Chu, what are you doing?" When Li Qixin saw it, he was stunned, but then he quickly reacted and rushed to the backyard. Seeing him leave, Li Muxiu sighed lightly and hurried to Chu Yan and found a seat for her. "Saint Lady Chu, the ancestor will be here soon. Please get up and sit down and wait." Chu Yan shook her head slightly. She knew that when asking for help, one should act like one is asking for help. Seeing her like this, Li Muxiu didn't say much, but just comforted her. "We are also aware of Patriarch Chu's current situation. Don't worry, my brother and I will help you ask the ancestor for help." After hearing this, Chu Yan felt a little more touched and nodded. After a while, Li Songhai and Li Qixin appeared in a hurry. After knowing Chu Yan's intention, Li Songhai pondered for a while, looked at the three figures in the void, and said in a deep voice, "I also didn't expect that the fallen sun god sun would be so terrifyingly powerful. The fluctuations he just made were enough to make even the saints in the world wary. He has captured your clan leader. Logically, he should have taken action long ago. But until now, there has been no movement. This means that he will not kill your clan leader in short term." After saying this, Chu Yan felt relieved. In a short period of time, that is to say, what are they waiting for? Li Muxiu immediately grasped the core of the problem and spoke quickly. Li Songhai nodded slightly, with a hint of appreciation in his eyes. "That's right. So, they are waiting for someone with double pupils?" Li Qixin also spoke, scratching his head, somewhat puzzled. After she finished speaking, Chu Yan's beautiful eyes froze, as if she was recalling the figure that day in the immortal treasury, which looked like a god descending from heaven. But in today's situation, the other party should not come. After all, the strength of the fallen sun godson is so terrifying, and his cultivation has even broken through to the saint level. Some time ago, all she knew about the other party was that he won the championship in the wilderness competition. The gap between a quasi-saint and a saint is far beyond what a being like her can imagine. Thinking of this, Chu Yan's heart tightened, and she inexplicably hoped that the other party would not come this time. However, at this moment, in a void not far away, several huge flying boats were heading towards here. The black and gold lines that looked like a black dragon, coupled with the flag with the word Tianyuan on it, were almost telling the people of the world that the Tianyuan divine dynasty had arrived. Chapter 464, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Thinking of this, Chu Yan's heart tightened, and she inexplicably hoped that the other party would not come this time. But if he doesn't come, will his father be able to come back alive? For a moment, Chu Yan's delicate face showed a hint of hesitation, and she was in a dilemma. And at this moment, in a void not far away, several huge flying boats were heading towards here. Rustle. The sound of the flying boat cutting through the clouds is especially clear around Qishan. The black and gold lines that looked like a black dragon, coupled with the flag with the word Tianyuan on it, were almost telling the people of the world that the Tianyuan divine dynasty had arrived. Those flying boats, am I seeing things right? Tianyuan, it's them. The Tianyuan divine dynasty is here. The cultivators around Qishan noticed the flying boat almost the moment it appeared. In an instant, the whole world was boiling, and countless exclamations were heard. Who just said that the fallen son of God has a saintly cultivation level? Their Tianyuan divine dynasty won't come. Open your eyes and see. Oh my God, that fallen sun godson is a saint. Even in this situation, that person with double pupils dared to come and fight him. He is really too brave. I never expected this. No wonder people with double pupils have so many admirers among the younger generation. Their character is beyond the reach of the likes of us. But the fallen sun godson is already a saint. Today, does the one with double pupils really have any chance of winning? However, soon, everyone thought of the almost terrifying power of the son of the fallen sun god, and their faces changed slightly, as if they were poured with a basin of cold water. If it were before, they probably all believed that the person with double pupils would be able to defeat this damn fallen sun godson. But now, they still remember vividly the terrifying power of the son of fallen sun. Kill a quasi-saint in one strike and capture a saint alive. It's hard not to take such a blatant record seriously. Even though the man with double pupils had been in seclusion for a month, he was still no match for the son of the fallen sun. After all, the son of the fallen sun god took this month to recover to his peak state, while the one with double pupils was just practicing. The improvement between the two is not on the same level. Although the man with double pupils has created many miracles before, this time he will meet his most powerful opponent so far. Can he still do it? Thinking of this, the atmosphere among everyone became depressing. However, there are also people who spoke out to comfort and soothe them. Perhaps the one with double pupils came prepared? In the past, there has never been an opponent that a person with double pupils could not defeat. Yes, didn't the terrifying Xian Jie from the previous immortal treasure also die at the hands of the one with double pupils? I believe the result this time will be the same. After hearing this, the monks already had the answer in their hearts, but they still smiled. It doesn't matter if we lose. After all, the one with double pupils is the #1 prodigy in the Xintian realm that we all recognize. That fallen sun godson is just relying on his long training. Some people echoed and forced a smile. Some powerful people and their descendants from major forces have been paying attention to this place. When they heard what these monks said, they shook their heads silently. It's not that they are attacking the geniuses of their generation, but that there is no hope at all. In this battle, the one with double pupils shouldn't have come. The son of the fallen sun is too strong. Those people had no idea how terrifying it was to capture a saint alive and unharmed. Chapter 465, Can we win? In a corner of the void, the people from Howard Pavilion were also watching this scene. He finally came. Elder Xiong said with a complicated tone, as if he felt a little regretful and a little appreciative. It is a pity that in today's battle, the man with double pupils will most likely lose, but the admirable thing is that the other party knows there's a tiger in the mountain, but still goes there. This unprecedented spirit has made him the undisputed #1 genius. At least in his heart, he thought so. Will he lose? Xiongda was also excited, but after hearing these words, he couldn't help but calm down. Maybe. Elder Xiong shook his head slightly and gave an unclear answer. After that, Xiongda fell silent. As a man with double pupils was his savior, he naturally didn't want him to lose. The image of the other party in his mind has long been taller than the sky. He couldn't help feeling a little uncomfortable, and even had some thoughts of leaving. He didn't want to see the other person in such a miserable state. I won't lose. Soon, an extremely firm voice sounded. The man had a broad back, lean muscles, and his short hair was particularly noticeable. It was none other than Russian, the eldest senior brother of countless disciples of Howard Pavilion. After seeing who was coming, Xiongda's eyes suddenly lit up, and his tone was mixed with excitement. Big brother, do you also think that people with double pupils won't lose? Elder Xiong raised his eyes slightly and looked at him with a little surprise. Why? He knew that Russian had just returned from that desolate land, and that he had been present at the battle in the desolate land. To be so sure, he must have had some unique insights of his own. A group of disciples were also looking at Russian, anticipating what he would say next. But who would have thought that Russian just shook his head and said, "There is no reason. He just won't lose." He didn't know why he believed it so much, maybe because he had seen too many miracles from the other party. If I were to express that mysterious feeling, I'm afraid no one else would believe it. After hearing this, Xiongda and the others all had some black lines on their foreheads. They thought they could hear the other party's unique insights, but they didn't expect that the eldest brother, like them, was a supporter of the person with double pupils. Even the eldest brother is the other party's #1 fan. Xiongda's eyes lit up, as if he had found a close friend, a kind of mutual understanding and admiration for one's own kind. Elder Xiong held his forehead in frustration upon seeing this. If this were to be made known, people who didn't know would think that their Howard Pavilion was the territory of those with double pupils, and that their supporters were everywhere. After some thought, he gradually shifted his gaze to the fiery red figure on the red mountain, and a deep fear arose in his eyes. The battle today, for the one with double pupils, is difficult. On the other side, Chilingate was also watching. That child shouldn't have come. The old sect leader had a look of regret in his eyes and sighed. Chao Li also nodded, as if in agreement, and looked at the son of the fallen sun with a complicated expression. Although he is arrogant, he is not stupid. The strength of the son of the fallen sun god has long exceeded everyone's imagination. It is hard to say whether this ancient freak with the cultivation of a saint can be defeated even by some powerful people who stand firm in the Shintian realm. Charlie took a deep breath. He originally thought that meeting the geniuses from other domains in the immortal treasure was already amazing enough, but he didn't expect that there would be such terrifying people in the world. Chapter 466. There are always people who are better than you. Charlie took a deep breath. He originally thought that meeting the geniuses from other domains in the immortal treasure was already amazing enough, but he didn't expect that there would be such terrifying people in the world. There is always someone better than you, and there is always something better than you. Today, he finally understood this sentence. Old sect master, how about you give me those hidden magic weapons, and I will go to Qishan to help him. Charlie took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, as a friend of the person with double pupils, he really doesn't want to see the other person lose. After he finished speaking, the old sect leader staggered and then laughed in silence. What can you, a mere god king, do? That was a saint-level battle, silly child. Even if you had a holy weapon, with your cultivation level, you would have only added to the burden of those with double pupils. But Charlie felt a little uncomfortable after hearing this and wanted to say something, but was rejected by the old sect leader. No buts. The one with double pupils helped me before, and I feel bad seeing him lose. But if you do something weird, it will be a sin. Besides, the one with double pupils displayed a shocking sword move in Chu City that day. The outcome today may not be one-sided. The old sect leader's eyes were deep as he spoke softly. After hearing these words, Charlie could only let go of his thoughts and looked at the red mountain helplessly. At the same time, over at the holy land of astronomy, there was also a stunning woman with purple hair staring at the void in the distance. When the disciples around saw this, they felt angry and sad. They had long discovered that something was wrong with their saint, especially after she returned from Xinzong. They all suspected that it had a lot to do with the man with double pupils. The scene before them directly confirmed their guess. Thinking of this, they couldn't help but want to curse, as if the cabbages they had grown at home had been dug up by someone else. If they had known this, they should not have come to watch the battle from the holy land of astronomy. Are you worried about him? Ning Rong looked to Ximeng, with some inexplicable meaning in her eyes. She was also in the sky above Chu City that day, and naturally witnessed the amazing feat of the man with double pupils. She was extremely satisfied with the man with double pupils. If her own saint lady really likes him, she might be able to make their relationship even closer. Hearing the question from her protector, Ximeng's pretty face flushed, and then she nodded slightly. After all, the person in front of him is an experienced person and can be considered his master, so there is nothing to hide. He's incredibly talented and saved me in the immortal treasures. I don't want to see anything happen to him. Ximeng bit her silver teeth and spoke softly. Ning Rong smiled slightly, as if she had expected it. and then her eyes fell on the figure on the red mountain and sighed softly. He could have chosen to retreat, but he still came. This can be considered as a sign of honor for you contemporary geniuses. He is truly a contemporary hero. But the strength of the fallen sun god's son has already recovered to its peak. He is not in danger anymore. The Tianyuan divine dynasty will definitely provide him with means to save his life. However, I wonder if those with double pupils can accept the defeat in this battle. If you can't accept it, you might become devastated or develop inner demons. Nangong's expression was somewhat complicated. Never recover? Shiming's face suddenly turned pale, as if she had been struck by lightning. Oh, it's finally here. I've been waiting for so long. In the void, the son of fallen sun sneered, and the power in his hands decreased a lot. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Chu Shanha broke free from the other person's hand and fled downwards without looking back. The cold sweat behind him almost soaked his robe. Only after he confirmed that the other party had not caught up with him did he breathe a sigh of relief. He looked up at the sky with a complicated expression, still a little frightened. Unexpectedly, the man with double pupils actually came. It was really a slap in his face. He couldn't help but blush a little, and after a long while, he finally said, "It's true that a newborn calf is not afraid of a tiger." In his opinion, the one with double pupils would never be able to defeat the son of the fallen sun god, and he came here today just to show off his strength. He has talent, but lacks patience. He won't go far in the future. Yenner's vision is ultimately lacking. Chu Shanha thought for a while, shook his head, and commented, "It seems that after today's battle, the situation in Xintian domain will be rewritten again, and he must be prepared to respond in time. As for the dead members of the Chu family, they can only take revenge in the future. Now, their Chu family is still too weak. After fully developing the resources in the Chu Zuling, the Chu family may not be able to compete for the first place." Chu Shanha seemed to have thought of something and smiled confidently. "Sir, are you just going to let him go like this?" Looking at Chu Shanha, who was fleeing so quickly, Fendao felt somewhat unwilling. After saying this, the son of the fallen sun glanced at him calmly. "Do you have any objections?" The incomparably terrifying pressure suddenly pressed down towards Fendao. The smile on Fendao's face froze instantly, and he couldn't help but curse in his heart. With this kind of temper, is there really no one who can teach the other party a lesson? But even so, he could only suppress his anger and put on a flattering smile. "Understand, sir, you're killing the chicken to scare the monkeys. What good trick. I was stupid and didn't understand your intention just now. I should be punished." Fendao slapped himself a few times, neither too hard nor too light. The son of the fallen sun god nodded slightly, his expression cold, making it impossible to tell what he was thinking. He fixed his gaze on the several flying boats that had stopped not far away, and a tremendous coldness burst out from his eyes. "If you dare to destroy the palace of the sun god, then stay here today." Fendao reminded, "Sir, it is said that they have a saint king in the Tianyuan divine dynasty, so you need to be careful." When the son of fallen sun heard this, his face instantly darkened. Although he had just broken through to the saint realm and could already look down upon the entire world, the saint king still had to be wary of him. Find a place to hide. Since they have strong men, collect some interest today and destroy their genius. After thinking for a moment, the son of the fallen sun god spoke. Then he bathed in flames, crossed the void, and stood on the top of the mountain. Against the backdrop of the sea of fire, it was as if a fire god was alive. Chapter 467, Let Me Wait. Oh, it's finally here. I've been waiting for so long. In the void, the son of fallen sun sneered, and the power in his hands decreased a lot. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Chu Shanha broke free from the other person's hand and fled downwards without looking back. The cold sweat behind him almost soaked his robe. Only after he confirmed that the other party had not caught up with him did he breathe a sigh of relief. He looked up at the sky with a complicated expression, still a little frightened. Unexpectedly, the man with double pupils actually came. It was really a slap in his face. He couldn't help but blush a little, and after a long while, he finally said, "It's true that a newborn calf is not afraid of a tiger." In his opinion, the one with double pupils would never be able to defeat the son of the fallen sun god, and he came here today just to show off his strength. He has talent, but lacks patience. He won't go far in the future. Yenner's vision is ultimately lacking. Chu Shanha thought for a while, shook his head, and commented, "It seems that after today's battle, the situation in Xintian domain will be rewritten again, and he must be prepared to respond in time. As for the dead members of the Chu family, they can only take revenge in the future. Now, their Chu family is still too weak. After fully developing the resources in the Chu Zuling, the Chu family may not be able to compete for the first place." Chu Shanha seemed to have thought of something and smiled confidently. "Sir, are you just going to let him go like this?" Looking at Chu Shanha, who was fleeing so quickly, Fendao felt somewhat unwilling. After saying this, the son of the fallen sun glanced at him calmly. Do you have any objections? The incomparably terrifying pressure suddenly pressed down towards Fendao. The smile on Fendao's face froze instantly, and he couldn't help but curse in his heart. With this kind of temper, is there really no one who can teach the other party a lesson? But even so, he could only suppress his anger and put on a flattering smile. I understand, sir, you are killing the chicken to scare the monkeys. What a good trick. I was stupid and didn't understand your intention just now. I should be punished. Fendao slapped himself a few times, not too big or too small. The son of the fallen sun god nodded slightly, his expression cold, making it impossible to tell what he was thinking. He fixed his gaze on the several flying boats that had stopped not far away, and a tremendous coldness burst out from his eyes. If you dare to destroy the palace of the sun god, then stay here today. Fendao reminded, Sir, it is said that they have a saint king in the Tianyuan divine dynasty, so you need to be careful. When the son of fallen sun heard this, his face instantly darkened. Although he had just broken through to the saint realm and could already look down upon the entire world, the saint king still had to be wary of him. Find a place to hide. Since they have strong men, collect some interest today and destroy their genius. After thinking for a moment, the son of the fallen sun god spoke. Then he bathed in flames, crossed the void, and stood on the top of the mountain. Against the backdrop of a sea of fire, it was as if a fire god was alive. P.S. I've been taking a break recently. My condition is really not good. I'll make up for it later. This book is expected to be completely finished in June or July, and I'm also thinking about the Upper World chapter. Thank you, brothers, for your support during this time. What a sin. The next new book will also be released in July. Chapter 468, Saint King. Seeing this scene, everyone's face changed slightly, revealing a strong sense of fear. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that the son of the fallen sun was definitely serious. What was going to happen next would be difficult for those with double pupils. Many people also noticed that the son of fallen sun seemed to have released Chu Shanhe, and they discussed it in low voices. Who said before that the one with double pupils would be released by the fallen sun godson when he arrived? You know what, it turned out to be quite accurate. Yeah, it seems that the fallen sun godson is not stupid. He knows not to expend too much energy before the battle. Fortunately, the head of the Chu family is fine. Otherwise, the Chu family would have suffered a huge loss today, losing not only the wife, but also the army. On the Chu family side, everyone felt relieved after seeing that Chu Shanhe was fine. When they looked at the son of the fallen sun, the smile in their eyes was gone, and they were filled with fear. They didn't even dare to think of revenge now. The other party was too strong, so strong that it made people feel despair. Even if the head of the family reached the level of a saint, he could not last half a round under the opponent's hands. Not to mention other saints, I'm afraid it will take many major forces joining together to bring this freak down. But is this possible? Forget about joining forces. It's difficult for each family to summon a sage, let alone get them to tacitly encircle and suppress the other side. I'm afraid that internal strife has already started before it even starts. Thinking of this, the Chu family members were extremely fearful. They took a look at the Tianyuan divine dynasty that had arrived late, shook their heads, and then showed a complicated look. Without knowing the situation of the fallen sun god's son, I am afraid that even the overlord-level Tianyuan divine dynasty will suffer a great loss this time. Thinking of this, some people in the Chu family had some gloating smiles on their faces. They couldn't let only the Chu family suffer. The Li family sighed. I didn't expect that when the Tianyuan divine dynasty arrived, they would actually release them. Li Qixin glanced at Li Canghai, his tone full of shock. My ancestor really came right. After Chu Yin breathed a sigh of relief briefly, she looked at the void with a complicated expression on her face. He is here after all? Chu Yin was very conflicted. She wanted Chu Shanhe to be saved, but she also didn't want Tianyuan God to come to them. After all, one is his biological father, and the other is his savior. Earlier in the Immortal Treasure, even a figure like the ancestor was defeated by him. I believe this time will be no exception. Chu Yin said this secretly in her heart, as if to comfort herself. Not long after, as the rosy light from the black gold flying boat dissipated, everyone present focused their attention on the flying boat, concentrating and holding their breath. This should be considered the first official appearance of the Tianyuan divine dynasty, appearing in front of them in such a grand manner. I have to say that the flying boat is indeed magical and magnificent, more impressive than any other force present. Just from the momentum, it seems that it has overwhelmed these forces. It is worthy of being the only top force in Xintian realm today. Who knows which important figures from the Tianyuan divine dynasty will come to this crucial battle today. Everyone sighed silently in their hearts, and the curiosity in their eyes became more intense. On the other side, the son of the fallen sun, and Fundao, who had long been hidden in the void, were also watching silently. It can be said that at this moment, the eyes of everyone present were fixed on the leading flying boat. Soon, as the smoke and dust dissipated, several figures appeared before the world on the domineering flying boat. Seeing this scene, everyone's pupils couldn't help but shrink. The leader was still the one with double pupils, dressed in snow-white clothes, with a calm expression. Surging fairy energy surrounded his body, as if fairy light was blooming, making him more and more unfathomable, like a young immortal. But what is most shocking is the other person's eyes. When the double pupils opened and closed, the light was blazing, and there was a faint golden halo in the center of the pupils. The royal aura soared into the sky, giving the handsome and immortal face an indescribable nobility. These two temperaments are mixed together. It is not an exaggeration to say that the other party at this moment is the reincarnation of the ancient young emperor. Everyone present could not help but stand there in a daze, their minds going blank. The young women were even more enthusiastic, their beautiful eyes shining brightly as they stared at Nangong Chen's beautiful face. Among them, there are also many high-ranking figures, such as female disciples of major religions, saints, and princesses. "I don't see you. Who in the world is worthy of white clothes?" A woman murmured. Of course, the most shocking thing was the son of the fallen sun, and Fundao. The fallen sun godson only thought that the other party was just an ordinary genius, but he did not expect that the other party would have such a fearful aura. The last people who made him feel extremely dangerous were those human monsters and hidden freaks of his generation. However, there is good news. That is, the other party has not broken through to the saint level, and he has not seen the other party ignite the inner fire of the Dharmakaya. The gap between a saint and a quasi-saint is like a chasm. A smug smile appeared on the face of the son of the fallen sun, and he muttered to himself, "It's really a handy whetstone." Unexpectedly, this world's #1 genius is actually quite valuable. If he were in his era, he would at least be in the top 10. But unfortunately, the other party met himself, and in the void, Fundao's expression was even more interesting. As a saint, he could actually feel an extremely terrifying aura from that little beast. It seemed like as soon as he made a move, he would die here immediately. He was very confident in the feeling in his heart. He had survived to this age because that sixth sense had helped him countless times without fail. How old is he? How long has it been? Fundao's face showed horror, and he took a deep breath. The last time I saw him, he was just a god king. In such a short period of time, he had grown to a point that frightened him. Then he glanced at the son of the fallen sun god, and seeing that he still had a confident smile on his face, the uneasiness in his heart grew stronger. Can this fallen sun godson really do it? Chishan is completely silent. It was not until a few breaths later that the monks present slowly came to their senses. At this time, they could also see clearly the person next to the man with double pupils. The old man had an immortal look, a childlike face, and white hair. There was not much emotion on his face, but just a wisp of his breath leaked out, and the space was almost shattered. His cloudy and vast eyes contained a startling glint. Just by raising his eyes slightly, he made many powerful men present feel as if they were facing a formidable enemy, and their faces turned pale. Seeing such a horrifying scene, everyone widened their eyes in disbelief. "Saint King!" Chushana couldn't help but exclaim, his face full of shock. He remembered clearly that when he went to the other side of Tianyuan alone, he had seen the legendary strong man, who also had such terrifying power. Even though he has now broken through to become a saint, the fear in his heart has not diminished in the slightest. Back then, the other party could easily kill him, and now the other party can also easily kill him. Chapter 469, a figure from the last era, the Supreme Saint. Chishan is completely silent. It was not until a few breaths later that the monks present slowly came to their senses. At this time, they could also see clearly the person next to the man with double pupils. The old man's white hair danced wildly, and he was wearing an extremely simple gray robe. There was not much emotion on his face, but just a wisp of breath leaked out, and the space was almost shattered. His cloudy and vast eyes contained a startling glint. Just by raising his eyes slightly, he made many powerful men present feel as if they were facing a formidable enemy, and their faces turned pale. What was most shocking was the pitch-black ink knife on the opponent's waist. At first glance, the cold knife seemed to be able to tear the soul apart. Seeing such a horrifying scene, everyone widened their eyes in disbelief. "Saint King!" Chushana couldn't help but exclaim, his face full of shock. He remembered clearly that when he went to the other side of Tianyuan alone, he had seen the legendary strong man, who also had such terrifying power. The fleeting glimpse at that time made him feel so frightened that he fell to his knees, not daring to even think of resisting. Even though he has now broken through to become a saint, the fear in his heart has not diminished in the slightest. Back then, the other party could easily kill him, and now, the other party can also easily kill him. But soon, as he focused carefully, he found that the other person's figure seemed to have been seen somewhere before, and seemed familiar. As soon as these words were spoken, many powerful men present were sweating profusely, their bodies trembling uncontrollably, and they didn't dare to look up and meet his gaze. "May I ask, Your Excellency, but is that the supreme saint of Eastern Shenzhou?" Li Songhai stood in the air, took a deep breath, and then bowed and clasped his fists in front of everyone. Everyone stood there in a daze, as if they were dreaming. Li Songhai, the dignified ancestor of the Li family and one of the great saints, actually saluted the old man next to the man with double pupils. "Hiss! What level of power is this person?" Some people couldn't help but lose their voices, their eyes filled with shock. Of course, someone soon remembered something and exclaimed, "He is the grandfather of the one with double pupils. He appeared in the sky above Chu City that day." After the words were spoken, everyone's faces showed a look of sudden realization, and their eyes were very excited. They still vividly remembered the opponent's sword that tore through the sky that day in Chu City. "I didn't expect that the other party would also come to watch this eye-catching and amazing battle today. With the other party here, even if the fallen sun godson and Fun Dao win today, they dare not act rashly." Everyone couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. It was no exaggeration to say that the other party was the stabilizing force. Some powerful people, after hearing the words Supreme Saint, froze on the spot, as if they recalled some horrible memory. At that time, Shura and Yamian were trapped in Zhongzhou by 8 saints. It is said that they were rescued because a mysterious strong man appeared that day. Holding an ink knife, he fights against 8 people alone and turns the tide. Until the end, the sky and the earth were stained with blood, and the enemy retreated at the cost of 5 deaths and 3 serious injuries. And after that, the powerful Mo Dao became famous in one battle, and his name was completely resounding throughout that era. Some people bluntly say that he is the most powerful saint of our time, no doubt about it. But the strange thing is that after that battle, no cultivator in the world has seen the appearance of the powerful Mo Dao, as if he had disappeared into the world. From then on, whenever people of that era mentioned that battle, they would recall the ink knife. Of course, this was just superficial news. After the war, some people from major forces found various clues about the powerful Mo Dao. And those clues all point to one person. That is, one of the 4 saints of the Great Zhou dynasty in East Shenzhou, the Supreme Saint. However, only the top forces know this information. Now, when they heard this name again, they remembered everything. At this moment, the powerful people from many top forces present became unusually nervous, staring at the gray-robed figure, not daring to miss a single moment. The next moment, an old voice sounded. "Oh, I didn't expect that in this day and age, there are still people who recognize me." Nangong Chen smiled meaningfully, his eyes dim. Nangong Chen, who was standing aside, watched the scene with a calm expression. He was not surprised that someone knew his grandfather. After all, his grandfather was such a powerful being that it was impossible for him to be unknown even in the last era. As soon as these words were spoken, not only Li Songhai, but even the powerful people from the major sects were boiling with excitement. They didn't see it clearly when they were in Chu City, but they didn't expect to remember it today after being reminded by Li Songhai. It really is him, the legendary Supreme Saint. In an instant, a look of admiration burst out from the eyes of those strong men. Others may not know, but they know clearly the story behind this Supreme Saint. What's more, the situation is completely different now. Not only has the opponent not fallen, but he is even stronger than before. It is hard not to admire them. Li Songhai's reaction was even more intense. He opened his eyes wide, breathing rapidly, and quickly clasped his fists and said, "Thank you, Senior, for saving me last time in Chu City." He did not forget that if the other party had not taken action last time, the strong man from the Blood God cult would probably have killed them all. Seeing this scene, everyone present was shocked, as if they were dreaming. Who exactly is the grandfather of the person with double pupils? Why have they never heard of the title of Supreme Saint? This was the first time they had seen something like this after practicing in Xiantian realm for so long, as it impressed all the powerful people from various forces present. Before Li Songhai could finish his words, he was interrupted by Nangong Chen, who waved his hand and said a few words. "Today is my grandson's home game, and we'll talk about the rest later." Then, he looked at Nangong Chen beside him, his eyes full of doting. Upon hearing this, the powerful figures from various forces present suppressed their extremely excited hearts and cast their gazes on the woman in the snow-covered clothes, their eyes filled with admiration. It turns out that he is this person's grandson. No wonder. As for the others, Their eyes were filled with shock when they looked at Nangong Chen. It's hard to imagine that the other party has such an identity. For a while, they couldn't understand each other's life experience more and more. It seemed that everything about each other was extremely mysterious, making people curious and awed. Of course, it also fascinated many young women present, with their beautiful eyes full of autumnal charm and rippling spring water. After all, the more mysterious, the more likely one is to sink, let alone a man with double pupils, who is rare in the world. At first sight, you'll be amazed for 1,000 years. At this moment, Fundao in the void was extremely anxious and sweating profusely. He regretted coming here today. The fallen sun godson was protected by the rules of the Red Mountain heaven and earth, but he had nothing. If he were discovered by the other party, he would definitely die today. Just when he was nervous and anxious, an extremely arrogant voice came from below. Have you finished your last words? If you have, come here and die. The son of the fallen sun god stood on the top of the mountain and spoke in a cold voice, his body surrounded by flames, like a god of fire. He had never imagined that these inferior people would dare to ignore him in public and focus their attention on the so-called person with double pupils. You know, I am the protagonist today, and the other party is just here to highlight my strength. Chapter 470, then I'll also charge some interest. As for the others, their eyes were filled with shock when they looked at Nangong Chen. It's hard to imagine that the other party has such an identity. For a while, they couldn't understand each other's life experience more and more. It seemed that everything about each other was extremely mysterious, making people curious and awed. Of course, it also fascinated many young women present, with their beautiful eyes full of autumnal charm and rippling spring water. After all, the more mysterious, the more likely one is to sink, let alone a man with double pupils, who is rare in the world. At first sight, you will be amazed for 1,000 years. At this moment, Fundao in the void was extremely anxious and sweating profusely. He regretted coming here today. The fallen sun godson was protected by the rules of the Red Mountain heaven and earth, but he had nothing. If he were discovered by the other party, he would definitely die today. Just when he was nervous and anxious, an extremely arrogant voice came from below. Have you finished your last words? If you have, come here and die. The son of the fallen sun god stood on the top of the mountain and spoke in a cold voice, his body surrounded by flames, like a god of fire. He had never imagined that these inferior people would dare to ignore him in public and focus their attention on the so-called person with double pupils. You know, I am the protagonist today, and the other party is just here to highlight my strength. After these words were spoken, the whole world seemed to become much quieter. The expressions of the people around Qishan were very interesting. No one expected that the son of fallen sun would be so disrespectful to the Tianyuan divine dynasty. You know, the last person who didn't give face to the Tianyuan divine dynasty had grass growing on his grave that was already several feet high. But it is understandable. After all, the relationship between the Sun God Palace and the Tianyuan divine dynasty has been like this for a long time. Before this, the Sun God Palace even did something to humiliate the other party. I don't know how the Tianyuan divine dynasty and the person with double pupils would react now when facing an ancient monster. Thinking of this, the casual cultivators who were watching smiled playfully, looking forward to it. At the same time, the eyes of Li Qixin, Chu Yin, Xi Ming, Chao Li and others were also focused on the figure in white. Even though I haven't seen him for a long time, for some reason, I always feel inexplicably at peace when I see him in white clothes. The next moment, in full view of everyone, the young man set off. He stepped on the void, his snow-white clothes fluttering, his body surrounded by fairy light, his expression extremely calm, and he slowly walked towards the Red Mountain. As the silver boots fell, a terrifying blue cloud bloomed in the dome, and the surging vitality seemed to be able to calm the endless flames before the eyes. The son of the fallen sun god stood on the top of the mountain, watching quietly, his eyes revealing coldness. You're finally here? That's quite interesting. He thought to himself that this was the first time he had seen such an amazing genius. However, visions are visions after all, and they are still powerless in the face of absolute strength. Thinking of this, he shook his head, a hint of disdain appearing at the corner of his mouth. Soon, Nangong Chen stopped, his snow-white clothes swaying, his black hair flying, and he was only one step away from the Red Mountain in front of him. But he did not rush forward. He raised his eyes slightly, and his terrifying double pupils looked thoughtfully at the void behind him. When everyone present saw this, they were suddenly surprised and thought that the other party was afraid. Why did the one with double pupils stop? Is he afraid? But it's understandable. After all, the son of the fallen sun is too powerful. Yes, he is a saint. As long as the Green Mountains remain, there will be no shortage of firewood. However, this doesn't seem like the style of someone with double pupils. Fleeing without even fighting. Chapter 471, then, I'll give you one too. The perception of the son of fallen sun god was so amazing that after hearing these voices, he couldn't help but reveal a hint of disdain at the corner of his mouth. Obviously, he also thought that the other party suddenly stopped because he was afraid of him. The fallen sun god's son pondered for a moment, then seemed to have thought of something. A hint of amusement appeared in his crimson eyes. "Ince, I believe you also received the gift that I gave you that day, right? Don't tell me. Those 4 losers were indeed weak in cultivation, but they were 4 good dogs. Even until they were tortured to death by us and their necks were broken, they never revealed a single piece of information about you. However, fortunately, this son of God is kind-hearted. I know that the people of your Tianyuan territory believe that the soul must return to the earth, so I have specially ordered people to return these 4 bodies to you. How is it? Are you satisfied with this gift?" The son of the fallen sun god finished speaking calmly, with a look of superiority and indifference in his eyes from beginning to end. He said these words just to provoke the other party. As soon as he finished speaking, the whole world fell silent. Everyone's pupils shrank. They had never expected that the son of the fallen sun god would bring up this matter to anger the one with double pupils. Over at the Tianyuan divine dynasty, upon hearing this, the eyes of the people on the flying boat suddenly turned red and they clenched their fingers. What a beast! Someone couldn't help but curse, and their eyes looked as if they wanted to cut the son of fallen sun into pieces. In the void, Nangong Chen frowned slightly. A hint of extremely cold light flashed in the depths of his eyes, and he took a deep breath. Then he glanced at the figure in snow clothes who was only 1 step away from Qishan, and a trace of worry appeared in his eyes. He had not expected that at this juncture, the other party would actually say such treasonous words. Regardless of whether he wins or loses today, he will stay in Qishan forever just because of this mouth of his. What's more, if it weren't for the protection of the Qishan rules, this official would not even be qualified to see his grandson today. I don't know if my grandson will be affected by this, and his plans will be disrupted. If that were the case, we would be in big trouble. At this moment, the monks present were extremely nervous and stared at the figures standing on the dome. It doesn't matter whether their emotions are big or small. What matters is whether the mood of the person with double pupils will be affected by them. However, what shocked them was that the man with double pupils did not seem to be too moved and just stared at the red cloud. "A gift? Then I'll give you one too." Nangong Chen stepped on the sky and muttered something. His double pupils shone with a terrifying light, as if to swallow up the entire universe. That calm voice was mixed with shocking murderous intent. Everyone heard it and looked up at the sky in confusion. Even the son of the fallen sun god couldn't help but frown, not knowing what the other party was going to do, and an inexplicable sense of foreboding arose in his heart. The next moment, a golden sword energy suddenly broke through the sky without any warning, piercing through the clouds and pointing directly to the chaos on the dome. The sword was so fast, like a flash of lightning, splitting the vast red clouds in an instant. "Ah!" An extremely shrill scream suddenly rang out, bringing everyone's thoughts back to reality. In a corner of the void, as the sky cleared and the clouds dispersed, a figure in a yellow robe appeared in everyone's sight. He looked extremely miserable, with a shocking bloodstain on his chest and bones clearly visible. Chapter 472, The Sword of Reincarnation. This person was none other than Fun Dao, the palace master of the Sun God Palace. At this moment, he was in a very miserable state, panting and holding his body. There was a shocking scar below his chest, and the bones were faintly visible. Tick! The blood that belongs only to the saint kept dripping from the air, causing ripples. When everyone saw this scene, they couldn't help but stand there in a daze, their minds going blank. But what shocked them the most was yet to come. They saw that the remaining sword energy on Fun Dao's body was distorting the entire void. That's right, it's twisted. The sea is in a cycle, and all things wither. Everyone seemed to see a terrifying force corroding time and reversing reincarnation. Fun Dao stared at his body in a daze. He had never expected that his hiding method, which could be considered one of the magical skills, could be seen through by that little beast. You know, that was the concealment skill that he was proud of all his life. Even when he was being hunted by the Saint King of the Jun family, he was able to escape. How'd he find out? How did he get exposed? Fun Dao felt a little unbelievable, and his eyes turned pale. He was sure that even the supreme saint present could not find his hiding place. And that little beast, who has only been practicing Taoism for a few years, can see through his disguise. Could it be that the inexplicable gaze from the other party earlier had already found me? Fun Dao couldn't help but feel a little scared when he thought of the other party's careless glances at him several times before. At first, he thought it was just an unintentional glance. He was complacent at the time and didn't take it seriously, thinking it was just a coincidence and it was impossible for her to notice him. Now that I think about it, the other party must have discovered me at that time. Keeping the troops in place was just to make him relax his guard so that he could swing the sword. He figured it out, and a chilling look appeared in his old eyes. He couldn't help but feel sad for those who were enemies in this era. This boy was not only gifted with terrifying talent, but his mind was also as smart as a demon. All enemies will be played around by him. Even if it was a few months ago, I looked down upon the other person with disdain. Fundao took a deep breath, feeling the burning pain in his body, which quickly brought him back to his senses. He pulled out a yellowed talisman paper from between his clothes, on which were clearly engraved the ancient Chinese characters, "Break the boundary." That's right, this thing is the legendary boundary-breaking talisman, a treasure he had previously obtained in the Sea of Heaven, and it is also the greatest opportunity he has ever had in this life. As long as he crushes it, he can cross the Tianyuan realm and go to any place in the 10 realms. Then he will survive. Everyone present saw the yellow paper in Fundao's hand and was confused. Some sharp-eyed warriors immediately noticed the extraordinary thing and exclaimed in surprise. "Hurry up and take action. That's the legendary boundary-breaking talisman." As soon as these words were spoken, people within a few miles felt their Adam's apples rolling. Their hearts tightened, and they quickly looked up at the figure in the snow-covered clothes in the sky. "Can you get away?" The calm voice sounded again, allowing everyone present to hear it clearly. Everyone stared at Nangong Chen in shock, some unable to understand why he looked so calm. That was his mortal enemy, Fundao, and he was about to run away. However, the next scene shocked everyone present. I saw that Fundao's hand holding the yellow talisman suddenly froze in place. Immediately afterwards, the entire space began to distort, as if the golden sword energy came alive. A brilliant scene. Chapter 473. The Cruelty of the Fallen Son of the Sun. At this moment, the world was silent. Everyone's eyes widened, their breathing became increasingly rapid, and their minds went blank. Fundao's cultivation level actually regressed to the Purple Mansion realm. What kind of miraculous workmanship is this sword? On the top of Red Mountain, the face of the son of Fallen Sun changed drastically, with a hint of surprise in his eyes. In his time, he had also seen such a brilliant sword. That was the most amazing swordsman of their time, and he considered it to be the most powerful opponent so far. Even the genius of the hidden family could not defeat the opponent with just one sword. He was also most afraid of fighting with the other party. I never thought that in this era, someone could wield this sword, even more suffocating than the one back then. Have you gone to comprehend the sword monument? I really underestimated you. At this moment, there was no contempt on the face of the son of Fallen Sunday, looking at the young man in snow-white clothes. There was a deep fear in the depths of his eyes. But even so, he had no intention of retreating. The reason was that within the Red Mountain, the heaven and earth were amplified, and he was invincible. Even if the opponent holds the sword of reincarnation and has double pupils, he can still defeat him and be invincible in the world. Thinking of this, the confidence in the heart of the son of Fallen Sun God became even stronger. On the other side, Fundao had already accepted the fact that he had fallen to the Purple Mansion realm, and his old body was trembling. The dignity and glory of the past were all gone at this moment. He slowly raised his head and looked at Nangong Chen, his weak eyes full of regret. If I had known that this boy was so rebellious, I should have killed him earlier, immediately and decisively. He did not regret coming here today, but he regretted why he did not come in person outside the Nine Heaven secret realm to put an end to this disaster. Nangong Chen was standing on the dome in a snow-white robe. His fair and handsome face was particularly cold as he met Fundao's regretful eyes. The next moment, he had an idea. A sword energy came out from the air, cut through the void, and chopped off Fundao's head. At the same time, an angry roar came from the Red Mountain. "Ant, how dare you?" Swish! In an instant, blood gushed into the blue sky, and the head with resentful eyes flew high up and hung in the sky. In the end, perhaps it was intentional on the part of the one with double pupils, but he happened to roll to the feet of the son of Fallen Sun. At this moment, there was silence around Qishan. Looking at this scene, everyone was dumbfounded and felt a little dreamy. Not only those independent cultivators, but even the big men from several major forces gradually put away their smiles and looked solemn. The palace master of the Great Sect that hadn't been passed down for 10,000 years, one of the top powers in the Tianyuan realm, perished just like that today. In an instant, it seemed as if the other party's words just now echoed in their ears. "A gift? Then I'll give you one too." At that time, they were still a little confused, but they did not expect that the gift that the man with double pupils wanted to give was actually the head of Fundao. Well done. On the other side, after everyone in the Tianyuan divine dynasty reacted, they were also extremely excited and looked at Nangong Chen with admiration. As expected, they knew that the prince would not let us suffer this in vain. If anyone dares to kill people from their Tianyuan divine dynasty, they must be prepared to die. In the void, Nangong Yu looked at the figure in white with admiration. Chinner did not disappoint him, and was still as brave as ever. On the Red Mountain, the face of the son of God Fallen Sun became a little stiff. He took a deep breath, as if he was suppressing great anger in his heart. The flames around it burned more violently than before, and the golden crow's divine form kept flapping its wings in the blue sky. He didn't expect that this official would not give him any face at all. How dare he kill his own people without any hesitation? Even though Fendao was just a selfish dog in his eyes, he should not kill him because he was a member of their sun god palace. What's more, Fendao is still of great use for the time being, and he has to take care of the divine palace for himself. And now, the other party is dead, which also means that the plan to restore the palace of the sun god has failed, and it is becoming increasingly difficult to dominate the entire Xintian realm. Thinking of this, the son of Fallen Sun couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood from his throat. He clenched his fists tightly and stared at Nangong Chen with eyes like a poisonous snake. However, thinking about how he had killed the other party's people before, he could only swallow his anger in public, and his expression gradually calmed down. If your purpose is to provoke me, then I can only say that you are still too immature. This Fendao has selfish motives and is not a good dog. His death is also what I wish for. After saying that, he stepped hard on Fendao's dry head, causing a bloody mist to rise. Such a cruel scene made all the monks feel a chill in their hearts after seeing it. Immediately afterwards, that extremely cold voice rang out between heaven and earth. But you should never ever kill him. If anyone has to kill someone, it should be this son of God. Next, I will use the most cruel means to bury you in the Red Mountain and refine your bones into a treasure for the Son of God, so that everyone in the world can witness your death. The son of the fallen sun god looked straight at Nangong Chen, and the terrifying murderous intent in his heart was enough to shatter the clouds. Chapter 474 Come, bury me in Qishan. For a moment, an extremely hot air wave swept in from the Red Mountain, burning the entire mountain forest and cave. Some weak monks could not withstand the heat wave. Their faces turned pale, and their bodies trembled. They were almost melted on the spot. As for the stronger geniuses, they were protected by the profound energy of their own masters. Although they were not in such discomfort, they were sweating profusely, their minds were shaken, and they watched the scene in a daze. At this moment, they truly felt the gap between them and the son of the fallen sun god. It was so huge that it was suffocating. As for the strong men from the major sects here, their eyes showed even stronger fear as they looked at the red figure. They were so far away, and with the protection of a flying magic weapon, they were able to reduce the residual power of the heat flow a little. They couldn't imagine what the consequences would be if they took even half a step into the Red Mountain. Thinking of this, they couldn't help but shift their gaze to the figure in the snow-covered clothes, wondering what the other person's posture would be like at this moment. I'm afraid that under this suffocating heat, the other party will not be as calm and composed as before. However, when their eyes fell on the small corner of the Red Mountain, their pupils suddenly shrank. The other party's figure had already disappeared from the previous location. Instead, there was a calm figure in a swaying snow-white dress on the Red Mountain. The next moment, in the sky full of flames, it seemed as if a ray of fairy light suddenly appeared, tearing through the rolling clouds and passing through the rolling clouds like thunder. An extremely huge body suddenly descended upon this world, radiating light all over its body, more than 10,000 feet long, piercing through the entire sky. A surging aura emanated from that body. The monks present stood there in a daze, feeling the fear emanating from the depths of their souls. As the fairy light dissipated, a corner of the white clothes also appeared before the world. He was dressed in fluttering white clothes, with an endless starry sky behind him. His face was shrouded in hazy mist, making it impossible to see his true appearance. He exuded a terrifying aura of pressure. Just one glance, and everyone present was deeply shocked. Words like noble, mysterious, and terrifying are not an exaggeration to describe that majestic figure, as if he is the master between heaven and earth. At this moment, even the golden crow figure crossing the void was nothing but a dwarf compared to this existence, extremely small. But that's not all. Green light bloomed, chaos emerged, and a green lotus revived from the Red Mountain. Divine light bloomed, suppressing all the fires. The extremely scorching heat wave before seemed to be soothed at this moment, and a coolness emanated from the Red Mountain. Nangong Chen stood on the lotus platform, leaning against the white-robed divine king. He looked at the fallen sun divine son with a hint of sarcasm in his eyes, and said, "Come, Bury me in Red Mountain. As that calm, yet confident voice fell, there was an uproar all around. No one had expected that in response to the harsh words uttered by the son of the fallen sun god, the man with double pupils would fight back so forcefully. These words touched the hearts of countless monks present. Even if you're a monster from ancient times, it doesn't matter. In this era, there will still be geniuses emerging and turning the tide. Those with double pupils. I don't know who shouted, but immediately afterwards, there was an overwhelming sound of excitement. A person with double pupils. A person with double pupils. The young monks present were all excited after they realized what was happening. Their eyes were burning as they looked at the figure in snowcloth with great admiration. Even some strong men were moved at this moment, with a hint of shock in their eyes. This scene undoubtedly overturned everything they had imagined before. Although the son of the fallen sun is strong, the one with double pupils is not inferior either. Chapter 475. Not necessarily unable to fight. A person with double pupils. A person with double pupils. The young monks present were all excited after they realized what was happening. Their eyes were burning as they looked at the figure in snowcloth with great admiration. Even some strong men were moved at this moment, with a hint of shock in their eyes. This scene undoubtedly overturned everything they had imagined before. Although the son of the fallen sun is strong, the one with double pupils is not inferior either. In the distance, in the Chu family, Chu Shanha, who had just returned, happened to see this scene. His pupils dilated, as if the computer had crashed. Impossible, impossible. He murmured a few words, his heart filled with shock. He originally thought that the fact that the son of the fallen sun god had captured him alive was already incredible enough, but he did not expect that the man with double pupils whom he did not think highly of was also an extremely evil person. First, he killed Fun Dao with a single sword strike, and now, he was not at a disadvantage in the face of the mighty power of the son of the fallen sun god, and even, he was the better one. There was a daze in his eyes, and his breathing was unstable. Could it be that he really had misjudged the person? In a trance, he glanced at the tall figure standing on the dome, and his hands clenched involuntarily. After a long while, Chu Shana finally wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and took a deep breath. He's just a show-off. I don't believe he can really defeat the fallen sun, God's son. On the other hand, on the Li family side, in front of a group of disciples, the reactions of Chu Yin, Li Qixin, and the other two who were in the lead were even more intense. After a moment of excitement, the three of them finally calmed down. As expected of you, Brother Nangong. Li Qixin hesitated for a long time, not knowing what to say, and finally blurted out a sentence. Yes, Brother Nangong, you are still as brave as ever. Li Musho also sighed, wondering why the other party was so evil even though they both had pupil-related talents. Chu Yan's pretty face was also a little dull, and only after hearing them speak did she show some reaction. She stared blankly at the top of the Red Mountain. She saw a figure in a snow-white robe, standing there quietly, bathed in the endless glow. At this moment, in the girl's eyes, he was no different from a god. Li Sanhai's expression was also somewhat complicated. He stroked his white beard several times in a row, and his heart was restless. He and the guy from Tianji Pavilion have measured each other's bone age several times. Compared with the geniuses today, the other party can be said to be an outlier among outliers. Feng is more than 19. Although the other party's qualifications are unique in the entire history of Xiantian domain, the speed at which his strength grows is too outrageous. You have to know that the last time the other party became famous, he just won the championship of the wilderness competition and killed a few insignificant quasi-saints. But now this kid can actually kill Fun Dao easily. He is a living saint. He dared to say that if this battle record were to be spread, not only him, but even the old monsters living in the depths of Xiantian realm would be horrified and sweating. Among the geniuses of this world, some have already grown to this level. This battle is starting to become suspenseful. Li Sanhai's eyes were deep, and he spoke softly. Like those people, he was not optimistic about the other side before the war, because the strength displayed by the son of fallen sun god was too exaggerated, and even he himself might not be able to suppress the other side. But now, after seeing the double pupil man showing off his muscles, he felt that the other party might be able to fight. Chapter 476. Fighting the Fallen Sun God. At this moment, not only the Li family had such a strong reaction, but many forces present were also speechless after seeing this shocking scene. After a long time, the unrealistic thoughts in their hearts began to burst out. Could it be that today, this person with double pupils is truly capable of fighting against the son of the fallen sun? In the void, Nangong was silent for a while, then suddenly laughed out loud. My dear grandson, is this the surprise you gave me? He stood in the air, chuckling, his white hair dancing wildly in the wind. The old eyes looked at the immortal figure with both relief and shock. Behind him, the three Tianyuan flying boats, standing in the sky, all burst into earth-shaking and exciting sounds. Today, at the summit of Prince Chishan, I will display my divine might. The simultaneous shouts seemed to shatter the 9 heavens. Everyone's eyes were red, and they were roaring, staring at the figure in the snow-covered clothes with burning eyes, cheering for him. They had been suppressed for too long, and had long hated the people of the Sun Palace and the fallen sun godson to the core. Now Nangong Chen killed Fundao in seconds, giving that fallen sun godson a taste of his own medicine, allowing them to truly vent their anger. Aren't you really that arrogant? How come you couldn't even protect your palace master, and could only watch him die before your eyes? On the red mountain peak, the face of the son of God fallen sun darkened, and he felt increasingly suffocated by the overwhelming noise. The number 1 genius in Xiantian realm is really difficult to deal with. He originally thought he could give the other party a warning, but who would have thought that not only would the other party not take the threat, but he would actually defeat him? He took a deep breath and looked at the towering statue, a look of deep fear flashing in his eyes. He does have some skills, but if he had been defeated by him when he had just recovered, he might have been defeated by him, becoming the greatest shame in the history of the 5 fate-defying sons. But that was only a few months ago. Now that he has refined the essence of the Golden Crow and holds a companion immortal weapon in his hand, even if a hidden freak is born today, he will have the strength to fight, not to mention that it is just the ants from the 3 states in front of him. At this moment, the eyes of the fallen sun god's son flashed with unprecedented rage, and a ferocious look slowly crept onto his face. All right, you want to be buried in Red Mountain? Today, I will grant you your wish. As soon as he finished speaking, the 3-foot-long refining heaven ruler in his hand burst out with black, evil fire and transformed into an incomparably huge candle dragon, circling between heaven and earth. The dragon's eyes were ferocious as it stared fiercely at the figure in snow clothes. The golden crow god, bathing in the scorching sun, had a pair of eyes that revealed a terrifying cold light and was fanning its red feathers that were as big as a hill, while a raging flame rushed towards him. For a moment, the heaven and earth trembled, and the space was distorted by the waves of fire, as if a natural disaster had come. At this moment, the son of the fallen sun god held the candle dragon on his left and the golden crow on his right, and was accompanied by divine flames. He looked like the god of fire descending from the sky. From a distance, he brought great pressure to people. Swish! The next moment, a fierce light flashed in the eyes of the son of the fallen sun god, and he evolved his magic. The fiery feathers in the sky turned into sharp, tempered blades and burst out. It was like falling sparks, and the entire void suddenly became extremely brilliant. But at the same time, that astonishing cold light almost made everyone's heart chill. Everyone stared at this scene in amazement, their minds going blank. No one expected that the son of fallen sun would attack so directly without giving anyone any time to react. However, those strong ones reacted quickly, with deep fear in their eyes. They could feel that if this fierce feather fell on them, they would be torn to pieces even if they used all their Dharma images. Seeing that the fiery feathers were about to fall, the figure in snow-clothed clothes did not dodge or avoid. A cold light flashed in the depths of his pupils. His 5 fingers suddenly clenched, and then he punched out. Not far away, the son of the fallen sun god smiled, and a hint of disdain flashed across his red eyes. He had never imagined that someone would actually use their physical body to resist the fiery sun feather that was tainted with the essence of the golden crow. It was simply ridiculous. TSK, do you really think your body is comparable to a holy soldier? However, soon, the smile on his lips froze. Along with the unpretentious punch, what followed was the overwhelming fist light. What a shocking punch it was. There even appeared a phantom of a divine image in the heavenly palace, standing on a galaxy, looking down at the sun, moon, mountains, and rivers, as if a vast and boundless divine power had descended upon the earth. And this is far more than that. The image of the god, king, standing in the sky, seemed to have resonated with him. A cold light emerged from the light mist covering his face. The minds of the people present were in turmoil, and their souls were torn apart, as if they had seen an almighty heavenly emperor punching. Boom! In an instant, a wisp of air that leaked out directly flattened 3,000 mountaintops, causing the entire world to sink. The red feathers that filled the sky now seemed much smaller under this boundless and powerful punch. They were instantly blown away, leaving no trace. Seeing the residual power of the fist coming, the face of the fallen sun god changed. He clasped his palms together, and red divine flames suddenly emerged, turning into a divine wall of fire that pierced through the dome. The boundless divine flames burned fiercely, like a falling waterfall of fire in the void, which was particularly spectacular and brought people a great sense of oppression. This is one of the Golden Crow's magical powers, controlling the flame waterfall. Oops. Those with double pupils need to temporarily avoid this attack. Around Qishan, a white-haired strong man seemed to remember something. His face suddenly changed, and he spoke. As soon as these words were spoken, people all around were in an uproar, and their faces looked a little puzzled. Although the strength of that white-haired strong man is not the top one, he is also a quasi-saint level strong man. Another point is that the other party is from the omniscient Tianji Pavilion. The thing that can make the other party feel fearful must be an extremely heaven-defying magic. May I ask, Elder, what exactly is the Imperial Flame Waterfall? Someone spoke up and asked quickly. After hearing this, the white-haired strong man's expression became complicated, and there was a hint of palpitations in his peripheral vision, as if that memory had left a very deep impression on him. After a while, after the white-haired old man's explanation, almost everyone present knew the history of the Yuyan Waterfall, and their faces turned pale. It turns out that the controlling flame waterfall is one of the Golden Crow's innate magical powers. When cultivated to the extreme, it can even burn through time, mountains, and rivers. That fire is not an ordinary fire. It is the Golden Crow divine flame. Not only is it as hard as a holy weapon, it also has terrifying killing power. As long as it touches you, your essence will be sucked away and you'll be burned to death. It can be said that this fire is specifically designed to defeat living things. In those days, the son of fallen sun god used this magical power to burn the top 10 geniuses of the demon race at the level of precious blood creatures and mummies, and became famous in one battle, becoming the most powerful among the 5 sons who defied fate back then. In that era, this magical power was also known to be unsolvable. And now, this magical power has reappeared in the world. This is a divine flame that is even more terrifying than that of the past. If a person with double pupils directly tears open his body, he will probably suffer an unpredictable backlash. Thinking of this, the cultivators present showed a bit more worry in their eyes. They did not want the one with double pupils to lose to the genius of the previous era. Not to mention that this son of the fallen sun god was so arrogant and domineering. Some remnants of the sun god palace in the crowd became excited. When they saw the man with double pupils reveal his Dharma image, they thought that the fallen sun god was doomed today, but they did not expect that he would give them such a big surprise. Sure enough, the reason why ancient monsters were ancient monsters was that they had some hidden abilities. Once we win this battle today, we will follow the son of the fallen sun to restore the divine palace. From now on, there will be no need to hide anything. Among them, an old man wearing a black mask said that his name was Jia Yin, and he was the former deputy palace master of the Sun God Palace. At this moment, his eyes beneath the mask were filled with excitement, and he looked at the figure of the fallen sun god's son with a fiery expression. When his gaze shifted to Nangong Chen, who was opposing him, there was only endless murderous intent and indifference in his eyes. I just don't believe you can break through this imperial flame waterfall. The son of the fallen sun had a ferocious look on his face. He stood on the waterfall of fire and spoke from high position. The void was speechless, and the only response he got was the residual power of the fist light just now. Crack! The sound of cracking suddenly rang out, especially noticeable in this quiet space. Immediately afterwards, there was a continuous sound of shattering. I saw that the waterfall of fire that stood between heaven and earth was torn open at some point, and the fist light rushed in instantly, almost shattering the entire waterfall of fire. Boom! The son of the fallen sun god had no time to react and was blown away by a huge force. He crashed into dozens of mountains and only stopped after being engulfed in a huge cloud of smoke. It's true that it can't be penetrated, but it can be broken. That cold voice sounded slowly from the sky. Nangong Chen was dressed in a spotless snow-white robe, standing on a lotus platform. Looking at the mountains that were exploding one after another, his expression extremely indifferent, like a banished immortal. With his double pupils and the 100 refinements divine scripture, any magical power was full of flaws in his eyes, let alone the Golden Crow, who was not even close to the 10 evil magical powers. However, he now felt a little unfamiliar with his own physical strength. You know, the fire waterfall just now was at least as hard as an ancient saint weapon, but he actually broke it with just one punch. It seems that increasing the number of one's immortal orifices will bring about a huge improvement to one's physical body. However, this is only a minor achievement, far from reaching the great perfection of the Tao Xianjing. He couldn't imagine how terrifyingly powerful his body would be if all the immortal orifices were truly opened. He was afraid that even a magical weapon could be defeated by it. Not to mention, there are two more realms to go up to, namely, perfection and transformation. If one really reaches that realm one day, it would not be an exaggeration to say that one has become an immortal in the flesh. Thinking of this, there was a hint of anticipation in Nangong Chen's eyes. Not far away, as the smoke dissipated, the figure of the fallen sun god's son appeared in everyone's sight. The eyes of the monks present were so sharp that after seeing it for the first time, they were stunned on the spot and their minds went blank. I saw the son of the fallen sun god slowly crawling out from the rubble. His red hair was extremely messy, blood plasma was flowing from the corners of his mouth, and dozens of his sternum were broken. He hardly looked like a human. He looked so miserable that no one could tell that this was the previously arrogant son of the fallen sun. However, what is most shocking is Nangong Chen's strength. Before the battle, there was an almost glaring gap in the cultivation levels of both sides. One was a saint, and the other was at the peak of quasi-saint. Especially for this kind of top-level monster, the gap was even greater, and now, the man with double pupils was able to suppress his opponent with a single punch despite being at such a huge disadvantage, making the battle one-sided. They had never thought of such a situation. Chapter 477 Creatures of Qishan. At this moment, the world was silent. The eyes of everyone present were all fixed on the top of the Red Mountain. When they focused on that peerless figure, their pupils couldn't help but dilate. The young man stood on a lotus platform, with fairy light surrounding him and a spotless snow-white robe. He looked out of place against the red mountain overflowing with magma, as if he was a banished immortal who had fallen into this world. Everyone was stunned for a moment and couldn't help but gasp. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, who would have dared to believe that the other party had already finished fighting? On the other hand, the fallen sun godson looked a little tired in comparison, or even worked extremely hard. You deserve to die. You deserve to die. Soon, an extremely cold and hoarse voice rang in everyone's ears. It was like an evil ghost crawling out from the underworld. Just hearing it made people's backs chill and scalp tingle. They didn't even need to think about who the owner of the voice was. Without a doubt, it must be the fallen sun godson who was hit into the rubble by the man with double pupils. In a gravel pit not far away, the figure of the son of the fallen sun god had long disappeared, and instead, the sky was filled with dusk. Red clouds gushed out from nowhere, almost burning through the entire sky. The entire Qishan mountain was suddenly shrouded in a fiery red haze, which also swallowed up the figures of the two people. In an instant, there was no intact land within the sight of everyone, not to mention the majestic figure that had pierced the sky before. At this moment, everything disappeared in the mist of fire before his eyes. After seeing this scene, some strong men could no longer sit still and exclaimed in surprise. The rules of heaven and earth left behind by the powerful Red Mountain Master when he passed away have been exploited by the fallen sun god. As soon as he finished speaking, there was an uproar. How is this possible? Didn't the rules of heaven and earth disappear long ago? Oh no, the one with double pupils is in danger. Back in his time, the fallen sun godson must have known some of the secrets of Red Mountain. Back then, Qishan was also engulfed by the fire fog. Countless human heroes who entered it narrowly escaped death. It's said that the fire fog has a strange quirk that only allows people to exert half of their strength. However, there's a certain type of person who thrives in this world, like a fish in water. Not only does their strength not weaken, but it actually increases their own strength. What kind of people? Many young monks were puzzled and quickly looked at the person who had just spoken. It was the first time they knew that Qishan actually had such a history. Those are the awakened talents, those with the 5th grade talent or above, who possess the fire of the most young. Back then, this group of people claimed the throne of Qishan Mountain, calling themselves the creatures of Qishan Mountain. They ruled the southern part of central Shenzhou for 3,000 years, until one day, the rules of the Qishan world dissipated, and these creatures of Qishan Mountain disappeared. The white-haired old man from Tianji Pavilion said quietly. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present was extremely shocked. No one had expected that here, they would actually hear the origin of the creatures in Qishan. The creatures of Qishan are well known in Xintian territory. They are the most terrifying group of fire tribute practitioners in this world. It is said that there are humans and beasts among them, and they are of different races. But the only thing that is certain is that everyone who joined is extremely talented. Otherwise, they would not have been able to dominate the South for so long. It has been a full 3,000 years, and even the top forces today can only occupy a small cave and establish their own power. Of course, the most important thing is that Qishan is the greatest opportunity for these Qishan creatures. Not only does it have a large number of attribute spirit stones for cultivation, but it is also protected by the rules of heaven and earth. It is simply a natural holy place for creatures to cultivate with fire attributes. So, one of the creatures from Red Mountain back then was the son of the fallen sun. After hearing this, someone seemed to have guessed something and suddenly exclaimed. Faced with this question, the old man from Tianji Pavilion had a complicated expression on his face and nodded slightly. After receiving this affirmation, everyone's mood suddenly plummeted. Who could have imagined that the son of the fallen sun god was actually one of the creatures of Qishan back then? Now inviting those with double pupils to fight here is tantamount to entering the opponent's lair. This was no wonder. Even when the double pupil man had previously slain that old dog of the burning Tao with a stunning sword strike, the fallen sun god's son, though furious, had not lost his confidence, his expression still tinged with arrogance. Now it seems that the other party is not without self-awareness, but is deeply confident. If I had known this would happen in today's battle at Qishan, I wouldn't have come. Yes, that fallen sun god's son may look young, but he's actually full of schemes and tricks. He's exactly like Fen Dao. No wonder the Sun God Palace appointed him as the son of God. But at this point, we can only hope that the person with double pupils can come out alive. If after a day he still hasn't appeared, I'm afraid his life will be in danger. At this moment, the eyes of everyone present were extremely complicated, filled with regret, self-blame, worry, etc. But without exception, everyone hopes that Nangong Chen will be safe and sound. In the crowd, Jiayin, dressed in a black robe, sneered and spat. Bah! The rules of the world in Qishan are so harsh that even a Saint King would risk his life if he entered. How could that little bastard think of returning alive? He's simply dreaming. What a wild idea. Today, a new king will surely be born in my sun palace. When he said this, Jiayin couldn't hide the smile on his face. The corners of his mouth raised, and his eyes were fiery. He was completely different from before. Just now the son of the fallen sun god was knocked away by a punch from the one with double pupils, and he almost turned around and left. But fortunately, God did not joke with him. He, Jiayin, was once the deputy palace master of the Sun God Palace, who is above everyone else. In the void, the smiles on the faces of these powerful figures suddenly disappeared and were replaced by deep solemnity. Obviously, as one of the most honorable figures in Xiantian domain, they had heard of the creature from Qishan and believed that it was definitely the most terrifying existence in the history of the entire Xiantian domain. The one with double pupils is in trouble today. This creature from Red Mountain is extremely difficult to deal with. In the holy land of astronomy, Ning Rong sighed softly when she saw this scene, her eyes filled with regret. After the words were spoken, no one dared to respond, and no one dared to say anything more. Some of the disciples' eyes would occasionally fall on the stunning beauty not far away, with complicated expressions. The reason was simple. After learning that the person with double pupils was trapped in the Red Mountain, the saint's expression became very strange, just like when she first came, extremely bad. Shiming's beautiful eyes were tense, and she let her purple hair be blown away by the breeze as she stared blankly at a spot in the fire mist. She vaguely remembered that Nangong Chen was standing there just now. Chapter 478. Father and daughter are in conflict and worried. On the other side, in the Chu family, Chu Shanhe looked at this scene, and a hint of joy appeared in his eyes. He then realized that this ancient freak who could capture him alive could not possibly have such limited strength. If the son of the fallen sun god was really defeated by the one with double pupils without any effort today, where would his previous face be? Wouldn't he become a laughing stock of those people in the future? Thinking of this, his eyes flashed with inexplicable meaning and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He naturally hoped that the son of the fallen sun would be as strong as possible. If he could kill the man with double pupils in the Red Mountain, it would not only save his face, but also put an end to his daughter's thoughts. This will save her from the fact that she, as the saint of the Chu family, is thinking about a man who has nothing to do with her family every day. It would be embarrassing if this were to be told to others. Chu Shanhe thought of this and couldn't help but glance behind him. A familiar figure returned slowly. Her skin is whiter than snow. Her facial features are delicate, and there is a heroic air between her eyebrows, giving people a unique sense of beauty. This woman is none other than Chu Yan. After noticing this, the Chu family and others didn't react much. They were just a little confused. Hey, wasn't Saint Chu here just now? When did she leave? Only Chu Xing secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He knew why Chu Yan left and was somewhat worried about her not returning for such a long time. But fortunately, everything is good now. What did you do? An unquestionable questioning voice suddenly rang out. Chu Shanha looked at Chu Yin and spoke slowly. As soon as these words were spoken, the tribesmen all looked over here, somewhat confused. They were also curious about what Saint Chu had done just now. Chu Yin remained silent, her white dress swaying in the breeze. Her pale face made her look like a cluster of dandelions, giving people a sense of brokenness. She stared closely at her so-called father since childhood, as if she wanted to see a trace of shame on his face. But after a moment, she gave up and suddenly laughed out loud. How could a person who even sneers at his savior have any sense of shame, let alone be a good leader of the clan? Obviously, Chu Yin had seen the entire scene. Chu Shanha's brows furrowed even deeper, and he asked in a deep voice, "What are you laughing at?" There was a hint of anger in his tone. Doesn't she know that she just came back from the gates of hell? As her daughter, it would be fine if she ran away without caring. But what does her current attitude mean? Did she really want to make a big move? Or did she think that Chu Ruchuan was dead and no one could cure her? Nothing, just something funny. Chu Yin shook her head slightly and said softly. After he finished speaking, the anger in Chu Shanha's eyes could no longer be concealed. Funny? He had desperately escaped from the hands of the fallen sun god. But in the eyes of his own daughter, was it so funny? He suppressed his anger and said coldly, "How ridiculous. When you return this time, you will be grounded for 3 months. You can only go out on the day of the immortal questioning conference." Then, Chu Shanha looked at everyone with a dignified expression. "Without my permission, no one can release her. Otherwise, you will be punished according to the family rules." Everyone present was a little confused, looking at the furious clan leader, and they were more or less puzzled. Why did he suddenly get angry? Could it be that the saint did something wrong again, and it didn't meet his expectations? However, even though they were confused, seeing that their clan leader was so angry, they did not dare to ask too many questions. "Chu Shanha, you bastard! My sister went to the Li family to seek a saint to save you, and you actually wanted to confine her. Are you even human?" Suddenly, an angry shout was heard, which was particularly harsh in this small space. Everyone turned their attention to the young man in the crowd. At this moment, Chu Xing's face flushed red, his eyes were full of anger, and he pointed at Chu Shanha and cursed him mercilessly. The elder disciples present were shocked at first, but after noticing what the other party said, their expressions suddenly became interesting. They must have heard it right. The saint went out to save the patriarch? What is the patriarch doing now? Chu Shanha was like being splashed with a basin of cold water, and he could not help but calm down. He did not care about his son's rudeness, but turned to look at the woman in the plain dress and said in a deep voice, "Is everything he said true?" Chu Yin didn't bother to pay attention to him. Her tone was a little cold, as if she was a little disheartened. "Now that you've said that, then I'll do as you say. After I go back, I'll be grounded for 3 months. She wants to absorb the inheritance left by her ancestors within these 3 months, and after 3 months, she wants to transform the Chu family." She had made up her mind. There was nothing in this family worth her caring about anymore. The former Chu Yin is dead. From today onwards, there will be no more Chu Yin in the world. Seeing that she didn't give him any way out, Chu Shanha took a deep breath and didn't know what to say for a while. He could only look at the red mountain with a cold light in his eyes. In his opinion, his daughter became what she is now because of the man with double pupils. At this moment, he hoped very much that the other party would not be able to leave the red mountain today. In his opinion, only in this way could Chu Yin return to her original appearance. In the void, as the red mountain was covered with a mist of fire, the cultivators of the divine dynasty could not help but become worried. Their vision was blurred, and, considering the rumors about the creatures of Red Mountain, they dared not imagine what kind of treatment the prince was suffering in there at the moment. As the backbone and supreme saint who came from the Tianyuan divine dynasty this time, Nangong was also somewhat silent. The black knife, hanging on his waist, seemed to be ready to move, and the terrifying sword energy was about to be released. This also made many powerful people present jump their eyebrows, fearing that this strongest person from the last era would split the Red Mountain in anger. They looked towards the hilltops and cursed the shamelessness of the sun god palace in their hearts. What kind of shady things were taught there? They were thinking about these conspiracies and tricks every day. If it weren't for the fallen sun god son who triggered the rules of the world in Qishan today, the outcome would have been decided by now. Why would we have to wait here in vain? However, it can also be seen that the man with double pupils is also a real monster who was forced to this point by the ancient monster in his prime. Not to mention Xintian realm. Even looking at the entire 10 realms, which genius can do this? In their hearts, the number one genius in Tianyuan realm, the one with double pupils, has already lived up to his reputation by sitting on it. On the other side, among the core flying boats coming from the Tianyuan divine dynasty, there was the Tianyuan boat in the center. The interior of the boat is extremely strict and is guarded by layers of Tianyuan troops, all of whom are top-notch warriors in the divine dynasty army. It is enough to see how noble the status of those who can ride on the Tianyuan boat is. At this moment, in its luxurious hall, several beautiful women were sitting and talking. Each of them has its own merits and is stunningly beautiful. If other people saw them, they would surely be astonished. These are probably the beauties from Tianyuan realm. They are all in the Tianyuan divine dynasty. The people from the Sun God Palace are still as treacherous and cunning as ever. I wonder what happened to their master in the Red Mountain. Wang Yuxuan's beautiful eyes were stunned. She held her face with both hands and muttered to herself, her words full of worry. Chapter 479, 5 Women Gathered. On the other side, among the core flying boats coming from the Tianyuan divine dynasty, there was the Tianyuan boat in the center. The interior of the boat is extremely strict and is guarded by layers of Tianyuan troops, all of whom are top-notch warriors in the divine dynasty army. It is enough to see how noble the status of those who can ride on the Tianyuan boat is. At this moment, in its luxurious hall, several beautiful women were sitting and talking. Each of them has its own merits and is stunningly beautiful. If other people saw them, they would surely be astonished. These are probably the beauties from Tianyuan realm. They are all in the Tianyuan divine dynasty. The people from the Sun God Palace are still as treacherous and cunning as ever. I wonder what happened to their master in the Red Mountain. Wang Yuxuan's beautiful eyes were stunned. She held her face with both hands and muttered to herself, her words full of worry. On his left and right side sat 2 women. One was wearing a black dress, expressionless, and as delicate as a porcelain doll. The other had a sword hanging from her waist. She had a delicate face, a tall figure, and a pair of long white legs that were very attractive. These 2 women were none other than Nangong Chen's personal bodyguard, Zhou Wan'er, and the current senior sister of the Sword Sect, Lu Ruyan. If possible, I don't want anything to happen to that guy, Lu Ruyan said in a low voice, with a hint of worry on her pretty face. Zhou Wan'er remained silent, as always, staring intently at the red mountain shrouded in flames. If anything happened to Nangong Chen, she would kill herself without hesitation to bury him with her. My royal brother will definitely be fine. Back in the heavenly sword holy land, he comprehended a sword intent that even shocked our ancestors. Our ancestors said that with that kind of sword intent, even a battle with a saint would not be at a disadvantage. On the other side, a weak voice suddenly sounded. Although the words were soft, they were filled with unwavering trust. Wang Yuxuan's eyes moved slightly, and she looked in the direction of the voice. What came into view was a woman whose beauty was no less than that of the 3 of them. She was wearing a light red phoenix robe. Her black hair was like a waterfall. Her skin was as white as snow, and her beautiful eyes were like a deep pool, giving people a sense of peace and tranquility. Wang Yuxuan couldn't help but feel a little surprised. She had heard that the crown prince had acknowledged the saint of the heavenly sword's sacred land as his adopted sister. Rumors circulated throughout the court, suggesting that the crown prince's actions were inappropriate. After all, a princess represented their reputation. After all, innate nobility cannot be cultivated in a sect or holy place. However, seeing it today changed her perception. If this extremely noble phoenix robe were worn by an ordinary woman, it would probably be too overpowering and make people feel uncomfortable, making it difficult for her to be the face of the divine dynasty. But when it is draped over someone, there's an indescribable feeling. The sharp edge that makes people feel uncomfortable seems to have dissipated, leaving only peace. But if you feel it carefully, you can find that the sharp edge has not disappeared, but has been restrained, creating that indescribable grace and dignity. It's like the difference between a young lady from a noble family and the real eldest princess of the royal family. You can recognize their identities at a glance. Lu Ruyan was also a little stunned, but she quickly reacted and looked at the other person deeply. No wonder that guy recognized her as his adopted sister. Gu Mengling felt a little uneasy when she saw these 2 gazes, and thought she had said something wrong. But even so, she still raised her white swan neck and clenched the hem of her skirt with her bare hands, making it impossible to see any problems with her demeanor. I wonder what your 2 sisters think, Gu Mengling asked calmly, but she was actually extremely nervous. Before going to the divine dynasty, she got to know all the close people around Nangong Chen. Otherwise, if she was not polite and offended someone, it would be a joke. Now, whether the women in front of her can recognize her is the key to whether she can integrate into her brother's circle. She knew that the pure and lovely girl on her left should be Wang Yuxuan. It was said that she was one of the first people to become her brother's personal attendant. She looked cheerful and seemed easy to talk to. The serious-looking woman in the black dress in the middle should be the princess of the old dynasty, Zhou. She's also one of my brother's personal guards and seems to have a close relationship with Wang Yuxuan. It seems difficult to talk to. As for the remaining long legs with a sword hanging on the waist, it should be the eldest sister Lu Ruyan of Tianyuan sword sect. It seems that she has a bad relationship with her royal brother. She looks silly, and it is hard to tell whether to talk to her properly. Analysis completed. Gu Mengling touched the tip of her nose and sat upright, as if waiting for her fate. Who would have thought that after hearing this sweet call of sister, Wang Yuxuan and Lu Ruyan, who already had a good impression of Gu Mengling, smiled even more and looked at her with a smile. Since they call me sister, we're like sisters from the same family. How can we be so distant from each other? Of course, we believe that your brother will make it out alive. After all, he's performed miracles before. The only problem is the fallen sun god has set an ambush in Red Mountain. We don't know what the battle is like inside, so it's natural for us to be worried. Wang Yuxuan spoke slowly. She originally wanted to say master, but because she was in front of Gu Mengling, she stopped talking. Lu Ruyan also nodded slightly. After hearing this, Gu Mengling's beautiful eyes showed some melancholy. Yes, no one knows the battle situation in Qishan at the moment, and who can guarantee that my brother is safe? Zhou Waner on the other side secretly glanced at her, but quickly retracted her glance with a slight smile on her lips. Is it possible that I will have another sister in the future? It seems quite good. Soon, the three women's eyes gradually fell on the last woman at the moment. She was wearing a black and gold phoenix tail skirt with a curvy figure, especially her snow-white breasts, which made them feel ashamed of themselves. That's right, there are 5 people here, and one of them has not spoken yet. Is this sister the disciple recruited by the prince? Wang Yuxuan spoke with a smile and looked at the woman leaning in the corner. Zhu Ying sighed helplessly and could only walk forward. Maybe these women will be his master's wives in the future, so how could they be rude to him? Chapter 480 Like to Hide? At the same time, in Qishan, fire mist appeared in the sky and then spread wildly, swallowing up the entire mountain in an instant, leaving no trace of light. Under this terrifying high temperature, the world became distorted and blurred. Not to mention living creatures, even saint-level beings would find it difficult to move and would slowly suffocate to death if they came here, let alone fight. This is why the creatures of Qishan were able to rule central China for 5,000 years. The rules of heaven and earth played an indispensable role in this. And now, the rules of heaven and earth, which have been revived for who knows how long, are revived again. Although they are not as terrifying as they were in the past, they are still more than enough to deal with a cultivator who is not even a saint. The son of fallen sun god hung high in the sky, looking down at the scene with a sneer on his lips. The rules of the world of Qishan have revived. What can you use to fight me? He just couldn't believe that this boy, who was as strong as an ox, could walk out alive after his strength was weakened by 50%. Thinking of this, the son of fallen sun slowly turned his gaze to the figure in snow clothes on the hill not far away, as if he wanted to see a trace of fear on the other's face. But unfortunately, he didn't see it. Not to mention being scared, he wasn't even nervous. He remained calm and composed. The son of the fallen sun god laughed, thinking that the other party was just a spent force, thinking that he could be safe as long as he didn't reveal any flaws. He had seen too much in that era, until he made a fatal move and found that the opponent was no different from the living dead. He didn't need to do anything, and soon the opponent turned into a pool of blood. But in reality, is it really as the son of fallen Yang thought? Nangong Chen's pupils were dim, and his expression was indifferent as he glanced at the sky. He could vaguely feel that ever since the fire mist spread, an invisible force had been trying to suppress him. But unfortunately, he was blocked by the green lotus under his feet. This also means that the rules of this world are nothing to him. And how does it feel to be bound by these rules? The teasing and arrogant words slowly rang in his ears. Nangong Chen raised his eyes slightly and met the gaze of the son of fallen Sunday. In his extremely clear eyes, a hint of murderous intent appeared at this moment. The majestic figure behind him also slowly cast his gaze over. For a moment, the hairs of the son of fallen sun stood on end, and an inexplicable panic arose in his heart. Is he not bound by the rules? An incredible thought emerged in his mind. But soon, he shook his head to deny it. This was absolutely impossible. A mere quasi-saint entered this world and wanted to escape the rules. What a delusion. He sneered in his heart, but a hint of caution appeared in his eyes. There's something weird about this kid, so we have to go all out and not give him any chance to fight back. The next moment, a cold light flashed in the eyes of the son of fallen sun, and he turned into a red light and disappeared into the fire mist in the sky. His figure seemed to disappear between heaven and earth. Having suffered losses in his physical body before, he naturally wouldn't be stupid enough to confront the opponent head-on. If he can't win by playing it openly, can he use underhanded tactics? As long as he can win, he will use any means. Nangong Chen was not too surprised to see the son of Fallen Sun disappear. After all, it had come to this point, and he could see that the son of Fallen Sun was related to Qi Shan. Similarly, the nature of the Sun God Palace lineage was also revealed. To deal with someone like me, who has not even reached the level of a saint, I have to use all kinds of dirty tricks. Nangong Chen frowned slightly and made a tisk sound with a hint of disgust in his tone. Then, he looked up at the dim sky and stared for a long time, but still could not see the other person's figure, and the dim light in his pupils also dimmed a lot. The fire mist was strange. It was far from being an ordinary fire mist. Even with his double pupils, he could not see through some of the substances in it, and it was far from being born in the Xintian realm. This means that unless the other party shows up on their own initiative, you can only wait. He could just wait. Although this world was a little weird and restricted his double pupils a lot, it was not completely restricted. As long as the opponent attacks, his double pupils can still quickly capture it and counterattack. Therefore, he can definitely fight with the son of the fallen sun god here. With the chaos green lotus protecting his body, the poison of the fire mist cannot penetrate his body. But that would be too slow and definitely not his style. The person who tied the bell must untie it. If you want to get out of Qi Shan, there is no other way except to kill the son of the fallen yang god. Nangong Chen shook his head slightly, rejecting the plan. Just when he was at a loss, a clear girl's voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Master, have you forgotten me? Ling Qianqiu's voice. Nangong Chen was stunned, and the image of a pink-haired girl unconsciously appeared in his mind. Soon, the clear girl's voice continued. During the battle just now, I've already dismantled all of the opponent's skills, including the moves hidden in the fire mist. As long as the master wants, I could draw inferences from one example and help the master counter the opponent. Afraid that Nangong Chen didn't understand, Ling Qianqiu added another sentence. That means the master can also enter the fire mist and pull him out. Nangong Chen raised his eyebrows. He was amazed. He didn't expect that the magical power of the 100 Refining Divine Classic was so incredible and could be used in this way. Soon, a mysterious sense of meaning entered Nangong Chen's mind. After a while, Nangong Chen's eyes showed some more meaning. The next moment, a cold light burst out from the gloomy rolling red clouds, tearing open the sky and rushing straight towards Nangong Chen's back. Swish! The astonishing speed is like a flash of lightning, so fast that it is almost impossible to capture with the naked eye. Even if a saint saw it, he would probably only see an afterimage. Seeing that the knife was about to chop off the opponent's head, and the opponent was still completely defenseless, the son of Fallen Sun couldn't help but show some joy in his eyes. He had been watching from above for a long time, and now he had finally found the perfect opportunity. However, just when the red gold scimitar was about to touch the hair, the opponent's head seemed to have eyes, and he slightly turned his head to avoid the sharp blade. Seeing that he had failed, the son of the fallen sun god felt inexplicably nervous and ran away. After sensing that the other party had not caught up, he breathed a sigh of relief and easily escaped into the fire mist. However, just as he was about to celebrate, a familiar voice rang out. The secret of hiding the flame, returning to the fire to nourish, burning the body with fire. The fallen sun god's expression changed drastically. Wasn't this the technique he used to merge into the flames? Then, he seemed to realize something, turned around suddenly, and saw a figure in white not far away. Nangong Chen's mouth twitched, his eyes filled with amusement. Like to hide. Chapter 481. Dragon enters the river, refining the heavenly ruler. The pupils of the son of the fallen sun shrank slightly, as if he had seen a ghost, and his mind went blank. How'd he get up here? No. How did he know the technique of hidden flame art? You must know that this technique of blending into the fire mist was a secret of the Qishan creatures back then, and only the high-level members of the Qishan creatures knew about it. And those creatures from the Red Mountain back then are probably all dead now. What's more, he had never seen the other party look like this before. This also eliminates the possibility of leakage from their own people. For a moment, all kinds of doubts rushed into the mind of the son of Fallen Sunday. He didn't have time to think too much. He narrowed his eyes and slowly cast his cold gaze on the other party. Since you're here, then stay. A mere quasi-saint. Do you really think you're afraid of him? The next moment, the son of the fallen sun suddenly attacked, his body wrapped in flames, and he blasted out with a palm. Boom! The boundless crimson palm print suddenly fell, stirring up billowing fire mist, and even shattered the clouds. You can imagine how terrifying the power of this palm is. However, it's not over yet. Following that boundless palm, there was also a fierce feather that was shining with cold light. The sky was filled with fiery feathers burning with evil fire, slanting down towards Nangong Chen. Two extremely powerful magic techniques were used at once. It was obvious that the son of fallen sun god was planning to take the opponent's life. With these two moves, an ordinary saint would be crippled, if not killed. Thinking of this, a hint of pride appeared on the face of the son of fallen sun. At the moment when the two magic spells fell, Nangong Chen moved. His pupils were dim, and his figure was like a ghost. He turned sideways and easily avoided the ferocious palm print. And then, facing the sky full of fiery feathers, he was as light as a swallow, flying among them, neither dodging nor avoiding, just like a dragon entering the river. The terrifying thing was that the extremely sharp feather seemed to have recognized its master and did not even leave a scratch on the opponent. After a while, Nangong Chen was wearing a dazzling snow-white dress, spotless and almost unchanged from before. The only slight change was the location. From the original, several miles away, it was now no less than 100 meters away from the son of fallen sun. The son of the fallen sun god was stunned, as if the computer had crashed, and stood there in a daze. Is this a fucking human? Even he, who had always been extremely arrogant, couldn't help but swear at this moment. In all his long life, this was the first time he had seen someone remain unscathed under his fierce feathers, and it could even be said that it was extremely easy. How did you do that? The son of the fallen sun god swallowed his saliva, his eyes becoming more fearful. If I had known that the other party was so difficult and weird, I should not have come today. It would be fine if Fendao died. Nangong Chen said nothing, clenched his 5 fingers, activated the secret of movement, and in the blink of an eye he was in front of the son of fallen sun god. And then he punched out. The mighty fist light followed closely behind. Snap! Along with the sound of bones breaking, half of the face of the son of fallen sun god collapsed, and blood plasma splattered. The next moment, his entire body seemed to be hit by a terrifying force and flew backwards. Bang, bang, bang. The bloody figure crashed into the deep pit, and with the momentum of his body, he kept hitting the hard rock. In an instant, the rock-like ground was pierced beyond recognition, forming a terrifying giant pit. Thick smoke slowly rose, and magma erupted from the ground, making it almost impossible to see the scene in the pit. Sure enough, it's more comfortable to hit people with fists. In the void, Nangong Chen looked at this scene and nodded thoughtfully. He could also use other magic techniques to deal with the son of the fallen sun. Although the effect was not bad, it was still a little lacking. Hand-to-hand combat is much more comfortable, simple, and rough, and can also bring visual enjoyment to people. The most important thing is that it feels really good to get slapped in the face. What's more, he has double pupils and the secret of his movements, so if anything goes wrong, he can escape quickly and no one can stop him. Soon, as the thick smoke dissipated, the tragic situation of the fallen son of God appeared between heaven and earth. At this moment, half of the fallen sun god's face was covered in blood and flesh, and his body was twisted in a strange posture. Obviously, this punch not only lost half of his face, but also shattered many bones in his limbs. His whole body was shaking, not from pain but from anger. His physical body was definitely not too bad among the geniuses of his generation, but he was humiliated twice by the other party using the same method. This was definitely a great shame in his life. I'm going to kill you. The son of fallen sun gritted his teeth, but due to tooth loss, his words were not clear. He could also hear the horrible anger in the tone. He slowly moved his right hand and swallowed a pill. Then he stood up with difficulty and looked at the snow-clad figure rising into the air. The murderous intent in his eyes could not be suppressed. That was his only remaining holy pill. He originally had 2. If it weren't for this kid being so difficult to deal with, how could he have used them all up? If he wants to kill, he must pay with the other person's life. In an instant, his injuries recovered a lot. Even the collapsed half of his face regenerated. Astonishing pressure continued to emanate from his body, giving a feeling of being reborn from nirvana. Nangong Chen raised his eyebrows slightly, but didn't feel much when he saw the other party swallow another pill. After all, fighting is not fair. Competition is not just about fighting strength, but also about family background, opportunities. This is why there are so few stories of grassroots teenagers making a comeback, and it should be unrealistic at all. Of course, if there is one in this world of immortal cultivation, it must be another leek waiting to be harvested. Thinking of this, Nangong Chen couldn't help but miss the old days. There were still Mo Han and other children of destiny to harvest. He didn't know who the next child of destiny would be. His thoughts were only distracted for a while, and soon, Nangong Chen set his eyes on the sky. In the void, the son of the fallen sun god did not have time to think about why the other party was not bound by the rules. After recovering a little, he sacrificed his greatest reliance today. That is the Lin Tian ruler. He did not forget that he had been in seclusion for some time just for this natal immortal weapon. Swallow it. The face of the son of fallen sun god turned red, holding the Lientian ruler in one hand, and shouted angrily. Beside him, the black evil dragon and the scarlet golden crow actually resonated with the heaven-refying ruler, blending with each other and erupting with overwhelming pressure. Soon, the dark golden ruler, 8 feet long, was hanging in the sky, burning with unknown flames all over. Ripples continued to spread from the sky, and overwhelming fire mist rushed into the Lientian ruler frantically. Lientian, as the name suggests, can refine the sky. After a while, the dim sky dimmed a lot, which also meant that the son of fallen sun god had almost absorbed all the essence of this place. At this moment, the aura of the fallen sun god's sun continued to surge. The early stage of sainthood, mid-stage saint, late-stage saint,